contrary to what Francesco wants to tell you in the chat and wants you to believe, no, I'm not still holding on to my spot at the parade route. I sold that long ago. That is long gone. I will not be anywhere near chairs, bolts, plaques, none of that. What a game for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Game number 78 tonight against the Washington Capitals. Potentially Alex Ovechkin's last game in Toronto. Last game against the Maple Leafs, for that matter, here tonight. And the Maple Leafs went out with a bang, didn't they? 4-0 loss tonight to the Washington Capitals. And not only that, but in the process, they lose Anthony Stolarz, Brandon Carlo, and Dakota Joshua. So your goaltender, a defenseman, and a forward all in that. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, well, maybe you'll get to see some of the young guys. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, Craig Berube is still the coach of this hockey team. So for that reason, I don't know. I don't know if we will. On tonight's postgame show, right here on the Leaf Station 401, for another edition of Leaf Station After Dark, we will dig into everything that took place in this one. We'll also talk about anything that's upcoming for the Maple Leafs. We'll talk about the Tankathon, how some other teams around the league did here tonight. But more importantly, we're going to take your calls, whether you've got hot takes, if you've got things that you're frustrated about, if there's things you liked, if there were things that stood out to you here tonight as positives. I want to hear all of them from you guys in the chat. So this is how the show will go. I'll give you guys some thoughts off the top. Then once we get through some of that, we're going to open things up to the callers. That's one way to get involved in the show. Another way to get involved here on the post-game show, a very easy way, is to just participate in the chat as the show goes on. Throughout the course of the show, you guys participate in the live chat. I will read it, answer questions, talk back and forth with you guys. Like I see here, Fish Gypsy in the chat says, does the Leafs AD mean after death? No, because I don't think that this is what we would be experiencing after death, this type of pain and misery. Unless you were a bad person while you were on Earth, I don't think that this is what it would be. It feels like it would actually be the complete opposite for some of us, unless maybe in your past life it was not so good things. But we'll go back and forth with the chat. Another way to get involved, and a really awesome way to get involved with the show, is Super Chats. Proceeds from our Super Chats go to Sick Kids Charity, Canada's #1 research-intensive children's hospital, #3 in North America. You click that little box that you see with the $sign in it on the show, in the live chat. You type the message you want to send. You select the amount you want to send. You click send, and I will read and answer every single question that comes through here on tonight's post-game show. So get involved in the chat. I mean, as well, just another way, very easy here for everybody, is like the stream. You like the stream, we do the smelling salts. Every set of 50 likes, 50, 100, 150, 200. I don't care what it is. We will do the smelling salts. But let's get to some things in the chat here and some of my thoughts from tonight's game. And just a reminder to everybody as we go through tonight's post-game show, check out Bet365's check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. It must be 18 plus. Please play responsibly. And as a reminder, as always, this show is a presentation of Bet365. Get in the chat, get involved in this one here tonight. I want to start with this, and it's a comment that I see in the chat that I want to talk about. Pow13, Pow77 loves both those numbers. Okay, fair. Those are actually were my favorite numbers. I wanted to be 13, and then everyone said, no, you can't do that. It's unlucky. So I switched to number 7, and then ended up wearing 77 later on. So nice numbers there, Pow. But Pow says, Stolarz cemented the fact that he doesn't have much trade value going forward. I don't know if it's, in particularly this game that you look at and say, hey, Stolarz got hurt there. The value shot. The value's tanked. He doesn't have any. But I think in general, the sentiment that Pow brings is right. And Unfortunately for Stolarz there, like, I bring off the top, okay, yeah, your goaltender's out, and Carlo and Joshua leave this one, and they're injured as well. We know OEL was banged up. Like, maybe they'll play the kids. They can go through a proper tanking here to close out this season. Unfortunately, the thing that does happen here with the injury to Stolarz is it looks significant. Like, it looked really, really bad. It's a non-contact injury. It's a lower body injury, clearly. He couldn't put any weight on his leg leaving the ice. He's an older goaltender who's already injury prone. He hasn't started the next 4 years of his deal, which start next summer on this new contract that's about to kick in. You've also got two goaltenders behind in Hildeby and Akhtiemov. Just in regards to asset management here as a whole, it seems like this was pretty poorly played out. And the one thing that I keep coming back to is why there was no further push to see if you could move on from a guy like that at the deadline. There are a lot of Western Conference teams who are dying for a goaltender right now. And you have two of them. I know that they're not the most reliable when it comes to their health, but they're both goalies that are pretty serviceable, and I think an upgrade over a lot of the Western Conference goaltenders right now. At bare minimum, they provide a tandem for some of those teams, which I think, a team like the Edmonton Oilers would have been pretty interested in. Maybe the Vegas Golden Knights could have used it before Carter Hart came back, and you could have taken advantage of that situation. But it's completely inaccurate, in my opinion, by Donnie Does Dishes in the chat here to suggest none of them want Stolarz. Strong disagree. I think he could have brought something back, and I think you could have found a suitor for him. And now trying to move the guy in the summer, if that's what you ultimately decide to do, it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult task. You're looking at a goaltender who already suffered from injury issues, is going to come off of a hopefully not that major injury, but an injury that looked like it was pretty severe based on the reaction that Anthony Stolarz had. Like, we've seen him have some injuries that have held him out, and none of them really, other than the concussion in which he was puking, had held him out for, or had a response to that degree. Non-contact squirming in the net, no weight on the leg after, is pretty concerning. And now the idea of trying to move off of a guy like that in the summer feels more and more like it's just going to have to be a traditional cap dump situation more than anything else. And I feel like if you were proactive and got ahead of it, you probably could have found some type of suitor where it wouldn't have just been a straight cap dump to have to move the guy. So that's something that's unfortunate about tonight here as well, aside from the fact that the injury itself is just a complete bummer. If you feel for the guy as a player, as a person, it's like he hasn't been able to catch a break this season. Things just haven't gone his way to this point. You feel bad for him. You feel bad for him seeing that happen. You hope that it's not as bad as it looked and the reaction looked, but it doesn't feel great after just seeing that happen. Carlo, Joshua, we'll see what the extent of the injuries are for those guys. The Maple Leafs obviously play again tomorrow night, I believe here, right? And I can't imagine either of those guys, they'll force either of those guys into tomorrow's game against the New York Islanders. I feel like at this point, you just hold them out. Probably a good sign or good thing that you brought Hames and Villeneuve up to be familiar with the organization and be around and see, get a skate in with the guys. And Berube did say the other day, there's a couple of guys who the weird quote, the way he phrased it, but he brought up, there's a couple of guys that wouldn't call it injuries or something like that, but they're close to having something that would hold them out. What the hell does that mean? But you had them up, you had them with the team, you practiced them. They got sent back down to the Marlies, obviously don't play here tonight. You're probably going to need to recall both Hames and Villeneuve ahead of tomorrow's game, unless Carlo comes out and all of a sudden is like, no, I'm good. But I could still see both of those guys getting called back up here. You're probably going to have to bring up Hildeby now for the remainder of the season. So play guys. Give guys a chance. Like, Hildeby's going to have to play tomorrow night. Joseph Woll obviously playing pretty much this entire game after Stolarz leaves this one 2.5 minutes in. It's time to play the kids. Like, you are going to be forced here into a situation to play the kids. I don't wish injury upon any of these guys, but based on the way that Craig Berube is holding the lineup right now, you know, it's like a blessing in disguise that some of these guys go out. Like, it's 4 games left in your season. And again, I want to be very clear and very careful about how I say that. I don't want any of these guys injured. Dakota Joshua is a guy I talked about the other day as kind of an intriguing piece for a guy who could play maybe a third-line role with better line mates or a fourth-line role next season if you're trying to retool this thing. I don't think he's a terrible piece to have on your team, but he's got to stay healthy. Suffers a serious injury with the lacerated kidney spleen situation earlier, and then Dakota Joshua takes on another injury here tonight, and it's like, oh my God, he's out again. But the silver lining to it, and what I'm trying to get to, is maybe now you are forced to have to play Luke Hames. Maybe now you're forced to have to play Quillen more because you're going to have to bring up some kids and move guys around in your lineup. And you don't really have that many forward options other than a guy like Michael Pezzetta right now, who Berube, when he puts him in the lineup, seems to want to play him for 4 to 6 minutes. Maybe now you have to play the kids. It still does concern me that they won't get into the lineup because Craig Berube is going to look and say, we have Pezzetta, he can go for Joshua. We have Stetcher, who didn't play tonight, he can go for Carlo. Luke says, if Craig fucking plays the beast, I'm done. He's got to, right? He's got to play Hildeby. He's going to have to play Hildeby because Woll played tonight. It's a literal back-to-back, not just back-to-back games for Woll, a literal back-to-back. They are playing tomorrow night against the Islanders. He's going to have to play. Donnie does dishes. Yeah, that Sandin hit. The hit Sandin put on Joshua. Yeah. I feel bad for Dakota Joshua. X, though, says it is hilarious. If we won 5 more games, we'd be right in the talk. Absolutely in it. It is a weird year in the NHL. I don't know if that is necessarily true as of right now. I'm just looking at where the standings are right now. If you had 37 wins, I mean, I guess you'd still be too far back. If you added 10 more points to this team, you'd be at 88. You'd be behind Washington. You'd be too far behind on this season. It would be over as well. So no, not quite. But what a year it's been. Let's just talk. Before we go to anybody here, let's just talk the actual hockey standpoint, because I know here on the postgame show, it's been more picking individual players and talking about positive and negatives with some of these guys, the coaching decisions by Craig Berube, what the future will be, that kind of stuff. And I understand that at this point in the season, that's probably more interesting and more relevant than anything else. One of the major issues that I see with this group right now, and it's been a problem all season, but it was just so evident in this crappy hockey game tonight against Washington, is a complete inability to transition up ice, get pucks up ice, to enter the offensive zone with possession, to maintain offensive zone possession when you do get it. Like, I know that there's a lot of problems defensively with this group, but I think you also end up having to play such a significant amount of time in your own zone because when you get the puck, you can't get up ice. Whether it's the first pass coming from the defense to the forwards, whether it's the forwards trying to get pucks to centermen breaking out of the zone, if it's neutral zone play, if it's trying to get across the blue line, like there is nothing smooth about the way that the Maple Leafs play right now. There is nothing smooth about how they carry the puck, how they create opportunities, how they move up ice in transition. Like, there is nothing going on for these guys. Dyslexic says, same as the last 160. Sort of. Like, last year was kind of like this. I would say not this bad. Not to this extent, I don't think. I don't think it was this egregious last year. It was worse for sure, but worse than usual, I should say. Worse for sure, but it wasn't this bad. It's gotten significantly worse all season long. And I know that I'm trying to be optimistic about some of these things, but that's one of those situations where I feel like a new coach comes in here and just very quickly can clean things up. Yeah, you need to bring in some new bodies. That's going to be the job of the new general manager to do. But I even look at the guys that they have right now, and I can't help but feel like if you had better systems in place, if you had a better philosophy in place from a coach and a coaching staff who are catering more to the talents that your team has, I think you'd be in a better spot. Like, I do think this team would be a little bit better. Does that make a difference, and does that put them in a playoff spot? Probably not. But do I want to claw my eyes out every time I turn on the TV and watch the Maple Leafs play? Probably not. Maybe every other game, but not every game like what I'm currently experiencing. I think that having somebody in here who wants to play a more up-tempo game, wants to play a more puck possession style of hockey, and wants to go in transition and in attack more often, it benefits this team. It benefits guys like Austin Matthews, Matthias Michelli, William Nylander, Easton Cowan, even Matthew Knies. It'll help those guys out to have the puck more. I agree with Berube's playing harder and playing more simple approach, but it's been taken far too extreme. The way that they played when they got to the playoffs previously was definitely too cutesy, soft on the puck, soft on your sticks, making fancy plays type of shit that works in the regular season, but it doesn't translate directly to playoff success. And it got shut down pretty quickly when you run into some teams who are very, very, very capable of playing that style night in and night out, much like your Tampas, your Floridas, and your Bostons, who pose the biggest issues for you come the postseason. But it needed to just be turned down, not turned off. And that's what Craig Berube has done with this group. He's taken it and he's gone way too far. Again, I'm not trying to say that changing this coaching and the style would put this group in particular in a playoff spot, because there are some deficiencies in their game. There are some problems with the way that they play and the guys that they have put together on this group. But that's the optimistic piece of me that thinks changing this coaching and the approach to how the game is played can put the group in a better spot. Just even as currently built. And then when you get to changing the people around, which hopefully the next president of hockey ops and GM do this summer, where they can tinker this thing if they want to be retooling and want to be competitive next year, If they can do that and they bring in a new coach, I think you can see a bump. So I'm still holding out some type of optimism. That is, if we believe what Mike Johnson was saying and that Austin Matthews still wants to be here, if it's a retool. And if you bring in somebody who's going to be creative enough to find solutions to the problems that you currently have. Because you've got problems. You're too old, you're too slow, and you're too injury prone. But bringing in somebody creative who can make adjustments and then bringing in a new coach, I think can help. Like, I know I'm oversimplifying a lot of this, but I just continue to watch this style of play. And, I want to hit my head against the wall because it probably feels better than watching the Leafs play. It's hard to watch. It is hard to watch. Okay. We're going to get to calls later in the show here, but I want to have on a special guest tonight because just laying it out to people. So I will be here for the postgame show tomorrow night. Saturday night will be a little bit up in the air. It's undecided yet what will be happening. I'm going to be on the road with Jeff Merrick. So we're going to be doing some stuff which might put a little wrench in some of the plans. I will be here for Game 82 no matter what, but I wanted to talk to this guy before the season ended, and I knew that tonight, I realized basically actually as the stream was starting that tonight was maybe one of the last times before Game 82 that I could get to him, so I wanted to make sure he could join here tonight. So with that, let's welcome to the program our guy, Mike in Buffalo. Mike, what's up? Welcome, and thank you for making time to come on here.
My pleasure, Zach. It's a dreadful night because, there are teams that can be bad and play entertaining hockey, and then there are teams that are bad and just make you want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And this team makes you want to go to sleep. I mean, take into consideration your best player is out for the year. Take into consideration probably your best defenseman and your Masterton Trophy nominee and Oliver Ekman-Larsson is, not available or hampered. They were never in this game. Their goaltender gets hurt and a couple other players get hurt. And, Washington is still in a playoff race, so they needed this game, but I didn't see any fight in the Leafs at all. And if you compare that to the other game that was being played at the same time, the New York Rangers are, a few points behind the Leafs, and they were up on the Sabres going into the third period before the Sabres caught up and beat them. But since the deadline, they've been trying. They've actually cost themselves draft position by playing as well as they are. So, Game 82 can't get here any quicker.
Yeah.
From the perspective of Leafs Nation. And really, my point of view here is, and it's sort of switched a little bit because if you look at the math right now, they're in the sixth slot. Now Florida and them are tied in games and in points, but Florida has more victories. So they're in sixth. Seattle and New York are both 3 points behind.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the Leafs lose out in regulation, I don't know if either one of those teams can get 4 points in the next 4 games.
Oh, I was praying that the Rangers were going to grab one tonight and they find a way to lose in reg, Mike. Praying.
Right. So think of it in the perspective of the Leafs giving their division rival a linchpin number 1 defenseman. They won't get Verhoff. They might get a Chase Reed. They might get a Smits. I'm not boned up on the draft right now, but these are guys who could go at 6 or 7. Or is it Tyson? I think it's Tyson Lawrence. Tynan Lawrence. Excuse me. Like I said, he's going to probably go in the top 5, 6, 7 picks of this draft. Boston could get themselves a very good player with that pick. And if the Leafs win a couple games, they could end up being in the 9th or 10th or 11th slot. So it's do you roll the bones, to use a Rush reference, and hope that you have a 7 or 8% chance of winning the lottery and not giving up the pick, or do you give them the 6th overall pick, which is the worst case scenario?
Okay, well, you tell me what you think this does for tomorrow. So let's start with some of the more basic stuff. Craig Berube says Luke Hames will make his NHL debut tomorrow. Bo Gru going back to the AHL for roster management. And then Artur Aktiemov will get the start tomorrow night versus the Islanders. I said Hildeby. I don't know what the situation is in the Marlies, so I just jumped to conclusions on that. I don't know if they played today. I don't know if they played tomorrow. I don't know what their playoff situation is. Hand up on that. I'm not as informed about what's going on. I haven't really been following the Marlies that much, so that probably plays a factor. But Aktiemov.
They did clinch a playoff spot today. I believe they beat Utica. Now, Aktiemov has had a very good year with the Marlies. And Hildeby, I think, has played better up in the NHL than he has with the Marlies. He still played fairly well. I think this is a reward, but some reward. He's going to walk into the Lions' den with Peter DeBoer coaching his first game with the Islanders, with John Tavares basically getting rocks thrown at him from the stands. This reminds me of I think it was Marty Baron, his debut with the Sabres was against Mario Lemieux and Yager in the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I think he lost 8-1. So hopefully this team, protects their young goalie and doesn't let him give up more than 4 or 5. But I mean, I'm not a betting man, but if you're not betting on the Islanders tomorrow, I don't know what more you need, more evidence you need that this is going to go a certain way.
Tomorrow night screams like Islanders. I am a betting man, and we do the game previews here every day where we give our best bets. Tomorrow night screams to me, and I'll have to see what the odds are, but like Islanders -1.5, Islanders -2.5, Islanders -3.5, Aktiemov like 40+ saves because he's gonna have to face 70 shots. Like it feels like tomorrow night could be a hurricane coming towards Aktiemov, but I don't know, man. I'm glad to see Luke Hames is going to get an opportunity to play. Getting the Marlies clinching a playoff spot is obviously pretty big because you do have to consider the idea that you want some of these guys playing playoff hockey. That is important, and it's not going to be here in Toronto. So if it can be with the Marlies, which I think Easton Cowan will be eligible to do, you're obviously going to have Luke Hames, Pezzetta, Bo Gru, like those guys, Quillen going down and playing with the Marlies. So you want them to get in playoff action with the Marlies. So that's important now because they've clinched that. So it kind of doesn't matter. You can pull guys in and out of the lineup from them when you need. But it's just going to be up to Berube to make sure that they play guys and they give them chances, because that's the one thing to me, Mike, that concerns me a little bit is that Berube just will still refuse to. Jacob Quillen tonight played 9 minutes and 1 second. He played the second least time on ice of all Maple Leafs forwards. The only player with less TOI than him was Dakota Joshua, who left the game with injury. That's the concern for me going into tomorrow and the final 4 games at that. Like, winning games, getting points aside, you want the kids playing, you want them getting chances, and as it currently stands, they're not.
If I was in the room as a media member, which I have been in the past, the first question I would ask Craig Berube is, your team has been eliminated from the playoffs.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Your team has been eliminated. You have right now, you flew William Villeneuve from Toronto to Los Angeles because Ekman-Larsson got hurt in San Jose. You flew him across the friggin' country. And then you had him up in the press box eating popcorn and played Troy Stecher, who's a unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. And I'm not attacking Troy Stecher because, for what he was, a waiver pickup, he's played very well. Maybe they want to re-sign him. I wouldn't be totally opposed to that. but you call up this kid and you bring him across the country and then you don't play him. And then you call up Luke Hames on an emergency basis. And then I saw, and maybe it was a paper move or whatever, but him and Villeneuve were sent back to the Marlies today. Mm-hmm. So what the hell was the purpose other than giving them 1 day worth of NHL salary? What was the purpose? Why are you playing Jacob Quillen 9 minutes? He's averaging less than 10 minutes I think it was his 20th game tonight. He's played over 16 minutes once, and that was the game he had an assist. It is inexcusable on the part of Craig Berube that you're not playing if your stipulation was, I'm not going to play the kids and I'm not going to play them until we're eliminated from the playoffs. As long as we have a mathematical chance, I'm going to try our best. Okay, fine. You've been eliminated, and you're playing Kali Yarncroke, and you're playing Troy Stetcher. What the hell are you doing? And the only thing I can think of is Craig Berube has control of the roster, and I don't think he's sticking it to the Leafs, but I think I'm going to play the guys I want to play. He's never had a reputation of playing young players, and he's going to do what he wants to do because he has control. And then a day or two after the regular season, hopefully Keith Pelly, and what he said in his press conference was bullshit, because hopefully they will fire him, because I agree with what you said. This team, in part, there needs to be a change of the roster, but they definitely need a change in philosophy when it comes to the coach, because the coach has ruined them this year.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I was trying to get at with the coaching thing too, is just I look at the way that they play, and I want to be very clear on this. It's not me suggesting, if you changed the coach, you would have been in the playoffs. Like, there are issues with the roster. That's abundantly clear here right now. But I can't watch this style of play and help think that if you change the way that they play and just cater a little bit more towards what you have in your lineup, that you would have been in a better position. I don't mind that Craig Berube wants them to play more simplistic than they have before. They should, Mike. They ran into problems when they got to playoffs in years past, and they didn't know how to play a more simple, harder style of hockey. And by harder, I don't mean dropping the gloves every 30 seconds, but wearing teams down in the defensive zone, wearing them down on the forecheck, making sure that you are taking away time and space constantly. Like they've never really done that. But you still need to understand that you have Austin Matthews and William Nylander, and recognize what you had brought into you in Nick Waugh, who I know is very good defensively, but is still a guy who can contribute offensively and can play that way. That's why Colorado decides to go out and bring him in. You brought in Matthias Michelli, and then you decided, nope, we're going to play like, I can't even put a comparison on what the hell type of what team they were trying to emulate here in terms of style, because I was going to say the early 2000s Devils or whatever, but it's like not even that. Like, it's not even like that defensive. Like, they're not good defensively either. And they just play boring, bad transition hockey that gets them in trouble. And I think that starts to make a difference there with a new coach. But, all of that aside, looking at the management of players and prospects and assets that you have right now, it's a disaster. And that is a complete failure, to be completely honest with you, by MLSE and Keith Pelly, because I'll put it on them more than anybody else, because I think at this point it's pretty clear that they have more involvement in things than they are admitting to. And I kind of just get the feeling that they're probably more so willing to allow things to play out as they are and allow Craig to do what he wants to finish this season than just stepping in here and recognizing what's best. There's no voice in there to say that anything should be done differently. And that's really frustrating to me, because 9 minutes for Jacob Quillen is unacceptable, to be honest with you. It's unacceptable, Mike.
This is a textbook definition of a multi-system failure. Mm-hmm. It's not just the coach. It's not just the players. It's not just the general manager. It's all of them. And they all contributed to this disaster. I mean, you can say, okay, injuries are an excuse, but injuries were a factor. Not just Matthews, but Joseph Wall with his personal leave of absence at the beginning of the year, making it necessary to play Stolarz 13 of the first 15 games, and then he gets hurt. Why? Because he played 13 of the first 15 games. And you can also factor in the general manager and the coach were not on the same page and did not analyze their roster and their organizational quality the right way. Dennis Hildeby plays well in the preseason, but they pick up Caden Primo and play him only in the back-to-back games, while Hildeby, who had a good exhibition season, that goes down to the Marlies, and then he proves that he was actually a good goaltender. But that decision contributed to Stolarz getting hurt, Tanev getting hurt, Carlo getting hurt. I mean, you lose, your top two right shot defensemen for a good chunk of the season. And in spite of that, they have that 8-0-2 stretch, and they're in a playoff spot. And then completely decompensate. The handling of Easton Cowan early in the season, spoon feeding him minutes, playing him on the fourth line, playing him on the third line with Dakota Joshua and Nick Waugh. And it actually worked for a little while, but they were playing him 11 or 12 minutes. Sitting Matthias Michelli for 3 weeks. And then after the deadline, you put him in the top 6, and he actually starts scoring. Well, what the hell was the revelation there? Why all of a sudden are you playing a guy in the top 6 after sitting him for so long? And the only thing I can think of is, and this is pretty bad, Matthias Michelli was their attempt to replace Mitch Marner because he had 40 assists with Arizona. And they got him cheap, and they figured, okay, we can plug him in. And if he gets 30 assists, then that takes some of the playmaking and passing ability that was missing with Marner, or we lost out with Marner. That didn't work because the coach decided he couldn't play the guy. So the coach makes decisions, the general manager makes bad moves. I mean, here is the perfect example of how dysfunctional this organization is. Keith Pelly had to be in the room at the trade deadline, and I think it was to make sure Brad didn't screw things up and trade somebody he wasn't supposed to trade. Now, maybe he was there to observe, and maybe he was silent, maybe he wasn't there to put the shackles on for a living, but all these rumors about Matthew Knies and that being floated out there, and Montreal being interested, and Chicago being interested, and whoever. If this general manager traded Matthew Knies, he should be arrested, because I mean, honestly, it would have been a complete injustice. Now, the new general manager, hopefully, he recognizes Matthew Knies is probably their second or third best forward, and he doesn't go anywhere. But it's not just Pelly, it's not just Treliving, it's not just Berube, and it's not just the players. It's all of them. You need a flush of this organization and a cleansing of this toxic goo that has been here this year. It is bad, but I don't think it's something that can't be turned around pretty quickly.
Okay, well, let's go to this conversation then, because this is the one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on here tonight. A cleansing is going to have to start with a new front office that gets brought in, because they're going to be the ones who determine the direction and then put a plan in place and then execute on said plan. Whether that is a president of hockey ops who then has a GM who then brings in a coach and coaching staff, and then they make changes and decisions on the players, or if it's just straight to a GM. I don't know what the decision is going to be first and foremost. I lean more towards a president of hockey ops coming back in here, just based on all of the smoke that we're kind of seeing about the idea of that happening here right now. Candidates that are out there right now, Mike, we talked about it, about who's available and what the odds are on Bet365 right now. Names like Mark Bergevin, Doug Armstrong, Sonny Maeda. Yeah, even our own Jay Rosehill was thrown into the mix over on Bet365 at some point. But a guy like Kevin Adams also gets thrown into the mix. You just witnessed it in Buffalo. You're watching a team that's currently first in the Atlantic Division here now. This is a lot of Kevin Adams construction in Buffalo. Is he a guy the Maple Leafs should be considering?
Run far away. I'm sorry. Kevin Adams, you could say that some of his failings in Buffalo were because of ownership and the shackles that were put on him. I honestly, I think Kevin Adams would be a dreadful choice as general manager. Now, I am hoping that this organization learns from this year and does have a president of hockey ops. I mean, we've talked about the fact that, it seems like Pelly, his marching orders from Rogers were to cut out middle management, cut out the president of the Raptors and TFC, and the only one who's in place is Shapiro with the Blue Jays. But I think he recognizes that he has to have this taken off of his hands, that he has to have a hockey person as an overseer to sort of manage up. I think Jeff Merrick was talking about that. You need a president of hockey ops to manage up to ownership and manage down to a general manager.
Especially here. Sorry to cut you off, Mike. Especially here. So a lot of other organizations, it's important. Especially here. It is 10x in my opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I am hoping that the recognition is there that you need a president of hockey ops and a general manager. I can't imagine that Sonny Mehta would be a president of hockey ops. As a general manager with somebody above him, that's fine. He's paid his dues in Florida. He's well respected. He's in the mix for other things. So I don't know a ton about him, but his reputation is very good. Kevin Adams, I know he worked with analytics. He worked with data. I don't care. I'm sorry. I see the result. The Sabres turned it around after they fired Kevin Adams. I think that was sort of, one thing didn't have anything to do with the other, except for maybe the fact that, Jarmo Kekalainen went into the locker room and said, you guys better start moving or we're going to start trading you. But I don't know if that happened. But I'm just saying, I don't think one thing had to do with the other. But I know Kevin Adams and I know how he managed the Buffalo Sabres, and it was disastrous. So I just don't think he is a legitimate candidate. At least I hope he is not. The one thing that happened today, and I don't know whether it was just time for him to move on or it was just he wants to spend more time with his family, but Ron Francis stepping down as president of hockey ops with the Seattle Kraken. I mean, does that mean he could be a candidate? I mean,
okay.
I don't know.
Do you like the idea of Ron Francis being president of hockey ops? I don't know how much of what's taking place in Seattle should be on his hands or should be the blame or whatever you want to call it put at his feet for the way that the Seattle Kraken have basically gone since they've entered the league. But it doesn't excite me that much about bringing Ron Francis in. And one of the main reasons is more so because of a problem that we currently have here in Toronto, in a sense, in that I feel like the way Seattle is run is too many chefs in the kitchen. Like too many people saying things and having some type of input, which it's a hard thing to have a conversation about because on one hand, I want other voices in there. Like, I don't want it only being Brad Treliving, like what it seemed like it was, saying this is happening and there's no one else that's really going to step up or push back or whatever, or the no advisors that are going to say, hey, you know what? It felt like, oh, this was the autonomy of Brad Treliving. That's why Pelly had to step in at the trade deadline or whatever. But it always has felt like Toronto has a billion AGMs and all these data guys and all this and all that. And I feel like one of the problems that took place in Seattle was too many people with too much input into different things. And what you ended up with was just a potluck of mediocrity in Seattle. Like, I look at their team and I don't really think that they have bad players, but they don't have great players. They're just like a team with guys. And that's kind of the lead that Ron Francis has taken. Am I wrong in that assessment? Like, it's okay if I am, but am I wrong in that assessment? Do you see something differently in them than what I'm seeing?
No, I don't think you're wrong in your assessment. The only thing I would say is you look at Francis, and he built the Carolina Hurricanes, and then Don Waddell took them over, and basically the players that Ron Francis, he planted the seeds, and then Waddell took over, and then now Eric Tulsky. But the core of that team and the structure of that team was Ron Francis. So, but that was his general manager, as president of hockey ops. I mean, he's had that experience in Seattle. I don't know the circumstances of why he's leaving. Maybe he just he thinks it's time to move on. The thing is, I look at the names that are out there, and I have issues with a lot of them. I mean, Mike Gillis. I mean, there's a reason why he hasn't been in hockey management in so long. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yep.
I mean, he had a successful tenure in Vancouver. It ended, and usually that name is in the mix fairly quickly, and he wasn't, and it's been a while. So
2014, right?
yeah, that's a long time. So
Yeah.
it makes me a little suspicious. You mentioned Bergevin. He's an assistant general manager in Buffalo, joined them in the middle of the season. He was an advisor with the LA Kings. I mean, you could say the advantage there is he worked in a big market in the most intense hockey market in the world, Montreal. But if you look at the moves that he made, I mean, the rebirth, the renaissance of the Montreal Canadiens is on Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes. And they're picking up the pieces of what Bergevin left. Bergevin is the one who signed these players to long-term contracts, who signed Brendan Gallagher to a long-term deal. So, I mean, I don't know whether I would trust Bergevin in his judgment. But, that's a different role. We're talking about him as a general manager, and you were talking about president of hockey ops. But is that just the renaming? Is it like, Jim Rutherford is actually the general manager in Vancouver, Patrick Alvin is assistant GM, but they do it that way. They name the guy the GM. Is that the case in Montreal with Hughes and with Jeff Gordon? And Gordon's the general manager. I'm sure he's involved in hockey decisions. I'm sure there's a breakdown of the organization and they split the duties. I mean, somehow that's going to have to be something that the Leafs do. It's just a question of the judgment of, I think it's Neil Glasberg and this group that they hired, how connected they are and who they recommend. And I just don't know Keith Pelly has the knowledge base to, make that decision on his own. That's why I think it's good that he hired a firm to do it. But I mean, I think they need to make this move now. I mean, like April 18th, at the end of the regular season, the first day, the day in between the end of the regular season and the playoffs, they need to fire Craig Berube, and they need to hire their president of hockey operations and him to start assembling the group, firing whoever assistant general managers they have and they don't want to bring in, hiring your new general manager within a few days or a week or so, and hit the ground running, because you've got an off season where you have to make a lot of moves. And I mean, you got to get started pretty quickly.
Yeah, and to keep in mind too, like the draft happens first, right? For everybody, just the draft is going to be the first piece. You don't want a guy to have to come in here a couple of weeks before the draft and he still has to assemble a team around him, because he's going to probably want to do some type of due diligence, unless he's going to go into that meeting with MLSE and say, I have my guys, this is who I'm going to be bringing. If it's the case of a president of hockey ops, if Mike Gillis goes in there in that meeting, I'm just saying it as an example, but if he goes in there in that meeting and he goes, I know Sonny Maeda is coming with me and he's bringing this person and we're going to get this person to be a part of the team, and this is what you'll get if you bring me in. Okay, that's a different situation. I don't know how common that would be for it to take place like that, but you want to make sure that this team is assembled and conversations are had, because that new person needs to have a conversation with Austin Matthews, which is also another piece. They need to have a conversation with William Nylander. They're probably going to need to have a conversation with Morgan Rielly, because you just need to figure all of these things out. Where are you at? What is our plan? This is our course of execution. Do you agree with this? Are you on board with this? It is important. You don't want those guys calling the shots, but they need to know what the hell is happening, because they need to at least tell you as the president of hockey ops and GM if they like it or if they don't, because you're kind of in a position here now, Mike, where it's like, okay, if you don't like this, we got to explore moving you. And it doesn't have to happen at the draft, but guess what? Conversations start then at the draft. Everyone gets together in person, you go for dinners, you meet people around the table, and you can start having those talks. You don't want this thing to have to go past that. Now all of a sudden in like August, Matthews is like, what did we do here? We're not better. I want out. You still got time, but it's a less advantageous situation than if you go into it then. The other part of it also, just, like a more surface level thought of it is, you kind of need to nail this draft. Not necessarily just by the players that you pick. That's obviously pretty important. But also, are you trading up in the draft? Are you trading players to get picks? Can you move off of guys? Do you need to sell pieces to clean this thing out that involve moving draft picks? Which obviously is not ideal, but like, it's a part of the conversation, so you need to be ready to go. So I agree with that for the most part, where it's like, you know what, we got to get going. I don't want them to rush it and just hire guys for the sake of hiring guys, but yeah, I do think this thing needs to start getting emotional. Nashville's already interviewing guys. They're fucking asking Carolina for permission to speak to Eric Tulsky. Obviously Carolina's going to say no. No shit. But good on them. They asked. Why wouldn't you? I mean, I didn't be interested in the guy. Why not ask? Who cares? Ask. But you got to get the ball moving, because now New Jersey's spot is opened up. You're expecting here you're going to clean house in some other areas, some other teams around the league. There might be other positions opening up, and some other GMs and presidents or potential might look around and say, that job, that looks pretty appealing to me.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2.5 months away from the draft. And, it's hard to imagine that whatever general manager and president come in, they're not going to basically keep Mark Leach and his amateur scouting group in place. Otherwise, they're drafting out of the NHL Central Scouting Book. Or,
yeah. They're calling Bobby Mack.
Yeah, right. It's really tough to assemble a group on the fly. I mean, remember when Kyle Dubas took over and Mark Hunter left? I think it was 2018. It was like Kyle Dubas only drafted players from the OHL. Like, I think he got his information. He took Rasmus Sandin from Sault Ste. Marie. Yeah. Where did he used to be a general manager? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, it was very centric to what he knew, and eventually changed over and built his scouting staff here. That's, one situation. Now, they don't have, they may have a first round pick if they end up finishing in the top 5 or winning one of the 3 lottery slots. But, they only have like mid-round picks. But you can hit on those. If you have a scouting director and you have scouts who are recognized talent, you have an opportunity. Like Miroslav Holenka, who they drafted in the 5th round. Yep. This is a kid who could be something. He had a great year with Edmonton. He's, they've been eliminated. The Oil Kings. He should be coming to the Marlies. I'm not saying he's going to make the Leafs next year, but I'm saying this is a prospect. I mean, Ben Danford. I mean, there are not enough prospects. They're nowhere close to other teams that are having young players come around. But that is a factor. You cannot just simply, just fire everybody. Somebody's going to have to be there at the draft table. If there is, well, there probably won't be a draft table since the draft is the way it is now. But somebody's got to be there to make the picks, and whoever they bring in as a general manager, I don't think they're going to be doing it on their own. So I would assume that means they're going to at least keep the group that they have in place for now. Eventually, they'll bring in their own people, but I would think that Leach would be allowed to draft the players this year.
Which I don't mind. Like, I think Mark Leach is pretty good person to have in that position. Like, that would be a guy that I would be very interested in keeping going forward. You name some of the guys there, or one of the guys at least, in Hlinka. They've also brought Nancy up for an ATO to close out the year with the Marlies. You've also brought up Hopkins. You've got Danford coming. It's not like the top prospects in the NHL that are coming through that the Maple Leafs have acquired, but some decent guys that you look at and say, hey, these guys could be players. And even just as looking at this draft in particular too here, Mike, yeah, maybe some of your picks aren't first-round picks and the greatest picks ever that you probably look at as the more likely upside players. But guess what? You're allowed to draft guys in rounds 3 through even 7. I was going to stop at like 5, but you can go as far to 7 to say, yeah, that guy can make it. He can be a player. If you've got good scouting in place and a good draft system, you can find those guys. I look at the Detroit Red Wings. There's a guy who's played for them 78 games this year, Mike. He only has 28 points, but Emmett Finney was drafted in the 7th round. Yes, that was in 2023, but it was the 7th round. He makes the team this year, and now all of a sudden it's a guy that you have to be playing every single night. You can find those guys, so you got to make sure you are well set for this draft this season. Summer.
A cautionary tale regarding Kevin Adams, because you mentioned him before. 5 drafts with the Buffalo Sabres. 1 player drafted outside of the first round has played an NHL game. That's Tyson Kozak. Every player from the 2nd round to the 7th, from 2021 to 2025, no games. The first round picks, the Oslins, the Kuliks, the Matthew Savoy, they traded him to Edmonton. Those players have played. But where a team has the most success is when they can get these young guys and they can develop them, and they are contributors, whether they be fourth liners or whatever. And they've had no success with any. Now, some of them may over the next year or two, but I'm talking about him as a candidate for the Leafs. The new general manager in this organization has to be able to accentuate player development. I mean, they've got boatloads of money to spend on scouting, to spend on analytics, and they should be kicking the ass of every NHL team because they have unlimited resources.
Yep.
And they don't do it. And I don't understand why, other than it's a circular firing squad. They just don't seem to. They're shooting in all directions and they're not hitting the target, and they need to hit the target.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about one guy, and then I want to ask you who you would pick after. Not your projection, so you can start thinking about that. I'm not predicting, but who you would pick. But first, I want to ask you about one guy. Merrick brought him up he went on Daily Face-Off Live 2 days ago and brought this guy up. And then he came on the sheet after and brought the guy up. I like the idea. And we put the clip out on the sheet. For those who don't know, I produce the sheet with Jeff, and you decide a lot of those clips, and boy, Thomas helps with the clips. But we put one out about Mike Johnson. Mm-hmm. And the idea of Mike Johnson getting a front office role. And I thought the way that Jeff put it was pretty, relevant to what the Maple Leafs situation is, in that Keith Pelly brought up data-centric. Well, what the fuck does data-centric mean? What does that mean? Well, the way Jeff kind of described Mike Johnson, I thought was interesting, in that he can take an analytical perspective of the game and translate it in layman's terms in about 10 to 15 seconds, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty impressive. And not only can he do that, but he understands it. He understands what he's watching. He understands what's happening on the ice. He can explain it well. And when you and I are sitting here talking about, and I don't know what the role would be in particular, but when you and I are talking about this market and having to sell upwards and having to manage upwards and having to manage the fans and the players and the coaches and all of those pieces, and then the idea of data-centric while also understanding hockey and trying to appease every corner of everything, Mike Johnson does kind of seem to fit that mold here of a guy who would be able to relate to all areas of the Toronto market. What are your thoughts on the idea of Mike Johnson moving into a front office position?
Well, he definitely has the communication skills. We know that from being on the air for as many years as he has, and being a very good color commentator. We definitely know that he has a knowledge base of hockey and has the experience of being a former player. It's not the worst idea. It's better than some of the other ideas that I'm hearing of the rehashed guys who I think bring a lot of baggage and a lot of sort of old school idea. How did the old school ideas work with Brad Treliving?
Yep.
Brad Treliving, the general manager who does not get the idea that the former team that hates him will never trade a player to him, and he wastes time talking to them.
Days.
And then days, weeks, months, tries to get Zadorov, they trade him to Vancouver. Tries to get Tanev, they trade him to Dallas. Tries to get Lindholm, they trade him to Boston. Tries to get Rasmus Anderson up until 2 p.m. and then then has to rush through to get the Brandon Carlo deal done. I mean, I'm sorry, it's just like it's like a monkey trying to screw a football. It's just it's Lucy. It's the other general manager is Lucy, and Brad Treliving is Charlie Brown. I mean, it's really pathetic. It's like, this is what, and thank you, Brendan Shanahan. This is what you brought us, because you had to fire Kyle Dubas because you wouldn't let Kyle Dubas trade one of your precious core four. This is the dysfunction of this organization, that they, it's not one thing, it's a series of things that leads to unmitigated disaster, and that's where we are right now. But the Kevin Adams thing, I mean, if this is serious, I mean, Elliot Friedman is the best there is, so he wouldn't mention Kevin Adams if there wasn't something to it.
Yeah.
But he did say it's sort of like, I wonder if Kevin Adams would be in the mix. He didn't say definitively that he was. He mentioned, I think he was more definitive about Meta than he was on Kevin Adams. So I'm hoping that they go in the direction of Sonny Meta or someone like him rather than go to Kevin Adams.
Okay, so let's throw out some of your media background and media training, because I know you have a whole lot more of that than I do. I kind of just come on here and shoot the shit and say whatever the fuck I want whenever. So let's throw some of that out for you, because I feel like this is not something that you would necessarily do very, very often. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is your ideal front office and beyond? If you are in there and you could pick whoever you want, within reason, obviously here, and you could pick a president of hockey ops, a GM, and a coach for next season, who is Mike Agello bringing in?
Well, the problem is the coach that I was looking for is going to be coaching behind the Islanders bench tomorrow.
Yeah, same.
Peter DeBoer was the plan. I mean, the problem is that in the coaching ranks, you have a bunch of those sort of rehash guys, Alain Vigneault or Peter Laviolette. I just don't want to go down that road, because that's what we had with Berube, and Berube is a cup winner, and Jeff brought it up. Tom Gorman, Dick Irvin Sr., and Scotty Bowman. That's three coaches in the history of the league that have won with two teams. So if you're Bruce Cassidy is not a guy I would want to bring in. Plus, look what happened in Vegas. They ended up hating him, and they basically got him fired, even though they were in a playoff spot. Do you really want to bring that to Toronto and alienate Matthews and alienate Nylander, so they want to get out of here too? I don't think that works. I would like to go in the direction of a younger coach. I know that Manny Malhotra has been mentioned. He did win a Calder Cup in Abbotsford. They're last place in the Pacific Division, but they don't have much of a roster. Could that be a move like Spencer Carberry in Washington? A young coach with a sort of his knowing the pulse of a team, and the advantage is he was in Toronto for 5 years under Sheldon Keefe, so he knows these players. I mean, but he's somebody who's sought after. I think Jeff said LA might be in on him. Vancouver, if they decide to fire Adam Foote, might be in on him. Nashville, depending on who the general manager is and whether they bring Andrew Brunette back, might be in on him. So he's a hot commodity. So, but I would rather. I don't think anybody's mentioned him, and I don't know whether he will want to come to the NHL because he's had such success in the NCAA. But David Carl from the University of Denver would be another guy that I would say, okay. Now, college coaches come into the NHL, David Quinn and a few others. They haven't had the success that they had in college, but you got to think outside the box. We've been going through the same baloney. Ron Wilson, Randy Carlyle, Mike Babcock. The deviation was Sheldon Keefe, and Sheldon Keefe had success because he didn't have any NHL experience, and he won a Calder Cup with the Marlies. And then you go back to Craig Berube. It's these old guys who are sort of stuck in their ways, and that doesn't work. This organization needs to get into the 21st century. And I don't think they are. I think in certain circumstances, they think old and they think, not modern, and they're just not grasping it.
The coaching thing with Sheldon Keefe, and because I think Manny Malhotra is a very good candidate here, and obviously there's going to be other teams that are going to be interested, but that's the kind of guy that I'd be looking at, not retreads. Like Pete DeBoer was the number one. That's a different type of retread, in my opinion. You listed the stat about coaches who have won with different teams. Pete DeBoer has never won with different teams. But I think he's an exceptional coach. He has a shelf life. Let's be very clear on that. He does. He's going to wear thin on the guys in Long Island at some point, but he's got a 3-year deal, not 10-year deal, and there's a reason why. But he's the kind of guy that I would have looked at off the board. Now that one's gone, it's not the Bruce Cassidys to me that I'm looking at and trying to go out and get. It's more so guys like what you brought up. David Carl, I think, is a good example. It's going to be hard. He's going to be one of those ones that would be really hard, I think, to get to come to the NHL. He would have to kind of take the right job for a lot of money, because I can imagine what he's making at Denver and the situation he's in is pretty cushy there. He has control of a lot of what takes place and makes a good amount of money. But Manny Malhotra is one for me. And, just tying it back to the Leafs, I know that a lot of people will say, well, he's never coached, being a head coach in the NHL, and he did coach in the AHL and won a Calder Cup, and you could kind of make some parallels to Sheldon Keefe. The difference for me is different timing in the guys' careers. And I might be oversimplifying it, but honestly, Mike, I think Sheldon Keefe was the right coach at the wrong time. I think Sheldon Keefe's a really good coach, but I think he came up with these guys at the wrong time. He shouldn't have been thrown in there with them to get the job done when they were coming through, because they had a lot of learning to do, and so did he, and so did the GM. And it just got to a point where everyone was all learning together, yada, 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 and then you kind of lost the plot on the situation. Now you're at a different point where Malhotra can come in and he's got these guys at a more experienced point in their careers. You've got a mixture of, okay, your best players aren't 19, 20 years old. Your best players are 28, 29 years old. And you've got guys that are 24 and 21 in Easton Cowan and Matthew Knies coming through that you can build off of. So I think it's a different group that you'd be looking at. That's why I think Malhotra would be okay for me. GM and president of hockey ops for you, who would you be bringing in?
It's tough. I mean, I'm influenced by the names being out there. I mean, again, I don't know a lot about Sonny Mehta, but what he might bring is the direction I think that the Leafs need to go. Is somebody who now I do not want a bean counter, a guy who's just going to read the numbers and not have his finger on the pulse of what actually makes a winning hockey team. That's what see, you need somebody who works in concert with that guy. That's why the president of hockey ops, I think, needs to be somebody experienced, and maybe the general manager is somebody, either a former player agent or somebody, an assistant general manager like Meta. I know I've heard Daryl Metcalf, who's the currently assistant GM with the Leafs, be mentioned as a potential candidate. I don't know whether he's even being considered or not. Brandon Pridham apparently was talked to by Nashville. I don't think he's a candidate based on what I've heard from other people mentioning. I mean, I just think somebody has to have experience, but it's got to be the right kind of experience. At general manager, I wouldn't be opposed to somebody being a first-time general manager. It's a tough market to be a first-time general manager. That's why it has to be paired with somebody who is, I would say, a sort of a wise old owl. And that's why I thought the Ron Francis idea, if he is truly available now, might be a good idea. But again, I don't know whether that guy will bring some of those things that have limited this organization in the last few years. It's tough. It's tough to know until they're actually in the position, and then you can evaluate what they do. Until they do it, you can just throw out any name and say, okay, that's a good idea. Well, some people thought Brad Treliving was a good idea. 3 years later, look at the crap that we're dealing with now.
A lot of other organizations also probably looked at guys and said, other fan bases, and said, I don't know. And then they work out because they get in the right situation, surrounded by the right people, have the right amount of support and backing behind them. And then they get in a position and where they can push the team forward and ultimately end up, being successful. So you don't know. The biggest thing to me, Mike, and I don't know who this combination of people is that would be in here. I'm dead set on it. There needs to be a president and there needs to be a GM. Even for, at bare minimum, somebody to be a buffer between Keith Pelly and the GM. Like, I don't want Keith Pelly and MLSE to have direct contact with the GM. There needs to be someone in between, in my opinion. I can't stand the idea of the GM having to run things past him to get it to go by. If it's a trade for Austin Matthews, no shit, that makes sense. You're trading a star player. The board is always going to have to approve of that. That happens everywhere. You don't just wake up and do those kinds of things. But if it's, you're moving on from Matthias Michelli, I don't need Keith Pelly looking over the shoulder of the GM. I want a buffer in there regardless, and somebody who can go out and handle the media and handle all that kind of stuff and be the intermediary. But I need a creative group here, Mike, because whether you're going to be competitive next season and you think you can retool this thing and get back on track, or if this is going to take 5 years to fix it, no matter what, it's going to need somebody who's creative. It's not taking an old school guy who's coming in and slinging picks left and right to bring in the pieces to get this thing back on the right track. You need to move out money. You can't be doing it by way of attaching picks just to get rid of that. We saw what happened with Patrick Marleau and what that pick turns out to be, because that guy is a Canadian Olympian and part of the Four Nations team, and Seth Jarvis over there that they ended up picking in Carolina using that pick. But you need somebody who's going to find a way to clear out some of the baggage you've got, clear out some of the money you've got, bring back younger, fresher pieces. And, the best examples of it, to be honest with you, are... Well, the best example that I can think of really is what kind of has happened in Washington. Now, they're probably going to miss the playoffs this year, but I look at some of the guys that they've brought in and from other places and found homes for here that worked out. Dylan Strome wasn't really working out in some other spots. The Washington Capitals take a chance, bring him in. It ends up working out. Justin Sordiff, they identify that piece from Florida. They spend a couple of picks and bring him in, but he's a young piece, Mike, that ends up working out. They identified that what he could be, and it's working. Jacob Chikrin, a very similar thing there as well. Like, you've got to be creative in the approach, whether you're going to turn this thing around next year or 5 years from now. You have to think outside of the box. You just have to think outside of the box.
And you look at that organization, and they get a second round pick for Beck Malenstein from the Sabres, and they draft Cole Hudson. And now Cole Hudson is the replacement for John Carlson. They have Protas. They draft his younger brother, Ilya, and he's probably going to be an NHL. Ryan Leonard. I mean, they're drafting and developing and inserting these young players into their roster, and these are the type of players that will grow and make that team successful. I don't know whether they'll win a Stanley Cup, but they're getting pieces that are helping them, and that's one of the things that this organization has failed to do for years and years. I mean, I am sick and tired of the Toronto Maple Leafs having to go out and sign fourth-line forwards and veteran defensemen to play on the bottom pairing. Are you telling me that you cannot find players in your organization that can do those jobs? Now, if going back to your scenario here, if money was not an object, which it shouldn't be for Rogers, and contractual obligations were not an object, we're not a barrier, I'd say Julien BriseBois as general man, or as Bill Zito as team president and Julien BriseBois as general manager. I mean, those are the two most successful guys. I don't care if the Florida Panthers missed the playoffs this year. Does anybody think they're not going to be back in the playoffs next year? And you look at that organization and the moves that he made for Tkachuk, for Seth Jones, for Marchand, that made them into a two-time Stanley Cup winner. Tampa Bay, you look at that roster, and with all the injuries that they have, you've got Darren Radish having a career year, scoring over 20 goals. Charles Edward Dastu, never heard of the guy, and he's playing, and he's physical, and he's contributing on the blue line. Lilberg on defense. I know hockey. I didn't know these guys, and they're playing effectively in the NHL. When is the last time some player that you never heard of just stepped into the Toronto Maple Leaf lineup and actually contributed? It doesn't happen, and that's the problem. This organization fails to develop, fails to draft well. Some of these young picks that they've had in the last couple of years, maybe they will, but in the past, how many draft picks did Mark Hunter was like Kevin Adams. His first round picks, great. Second through seventh, crap. Kyle Dubas had some success, but was fixated on drafting small players with skill.
Yeah.
Except for Matthew Knies, who was probably his most successful pick. And in the 1 year that he should have picked a small player with skill, 2022, he passed on him he passed on Lane Hudson for Fraser Minten. Fraser Minton's a good player, but are you telling me Lane Hudson wouldn't make a difference in Toronto right now as the point man on their power play and provide mobility? That's what I mean. It's like these were things that could have happened that didn't happen, and of course they didn't happen because it's the Maple Leafs.
Yes, very true. Very true. There's going to be a lot more to talk about, Mike, over the next little bit as we lead into the NHL draft, the draft lottery, and free agency. I look forward to catching up with you throughout all of that. I'll have you on as long as you're around for Game 82 next Wednesday as well, if you want to stop by for that. But until then, this might be the last time I talk to you until then, because as I kind of laid out before you jumped on, I got a little trip coming up here. I'll be here doing the show tomorrow. And then I think I might be out for Saturday and Monday. Not entirely sure, but I'll be back for Wednesday for sure. So if you're around Wednesday, I'd love to have you on.
Definitely. Let me just address one last thing quickly, because you were talking about it before I came on.
Okay.
Anthony Stolarz can be traded. He can be traded. This is, okay, here is your market for goaltenders, folks. Free agency. Stuart Skinner and Freddie Anderson are your top two unrestricted free agent goaltenders, which means there's nothing there, okay?
Yeah.
Devin Levi, probably Samuel Montembeault, in Montreal because now they have Fowler and they have Dobish. So they'll probably put Montembeault on the market and Jordan Binnington. That's it. There's not much else. So Stolarz, I know it's 4 years. A team like Utah, who has Vejmelka, they don't have a backup right now. They have, Vitek Vanacek. He's not very good. He's up after this year. They have Harabel, who's a really good prospect who just left college and now is playing in the minors. He's going to be probably a couple years. Are you telling me that Utah would not be interested in a veteran goaltender who could play 30 games, even though he gets hurt when he breathes? But if Vejmelka is playing 50, 52 games and Stolarz is playing 30, that probably works. And I looked it up, and I'm not going to go through it because you don't have the time, but I'd say there's 10 to 12 teams that are looking for either a tandem or a backup goaltender. The Leafs will have no problem moving Anthony Stolarz. And if the new general manager moves Joseph Wall or Dennis Hildeby, he's nuts.
Yeah. No, look, I think he's movable. I agree with you. But I do think, especially watching him get injured here tonight, it makes it...
Yeah.
It might be recency bias, some people just seeing it and seeing this year, but I think it does make it a little bit more difficult, especially if he doesn't play for the rest of the season and goes into the summer injured, because no one's going to see him from next Wednesday on, and all they'll know is what people tell them about whether or not the guy is healthy again. I do think it makes it a little bit more difficult just seeing how many injuries he dealt with and coming off a non-contact, but look, man, who knows? Craig Berube said I'm trying to find the exact quote. Not ruling Stolarz out for the rest of the season. I don't know. Got to get some imaging done. Who knows, man? Maybe he'll be back. Maybe that'll up the value.
Yeah, let's play in game 82, and then he'll fold up his leg again.
Like, holy fuck, dude! Just let it go. We're shutting him down. The Florida Panthers. Somebody gets a hangnail, and they're like, done for the year. The Leafs, these guys are like they've got Craig Berube doing Herb Brooks miracle speeches before games. Like OEL's knee is hanging on sideways. And he's giving him the Herb Brooks, it's a long way from the heart. Holy fuck, Craig, we're out of the playoffs. We have been for a month. Shut it down. Oh, God.
Nope.
No, can't do it.
Will not do it. He will not quit.
All right, Mike, thanks for the time here tonight. I appreciate it, as always. As long as you're around, we'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you.
My pleasure, Zach. Have a good one.
There you go. Mike Agello from the Hockey Hot Stove, covering all things Make Believes. Make sure to check them out. Make sure to check Mike out on Twitter at Mike in Buffalo. We got a lot more to go here tonight on the show, including calls from you guys in the chat. We got super chats. We got smelling salts. We've got callers. We've got segments coming up here tonight on the postgame show, but let's start first and foremost, as we are one like away, by the way, but let's start first and foremost with our best bet segment, which went basically like the Leafs night here tonight. Hockey fans, tired of waiting for the end of the game to get paid, ready to move on to the next puck drop. That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast. Now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing you have to wait around for. Bet365, download the app and see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and make this quick and easy. Ovechkin over 4.5 shots on goal. Lost half a unit there. He finished with 3 shots on goal. To be fair, by the way, I thought we were going to be in a decent spot when they got that power play in the second period. I was like, okay, here we go. He had already had 3. I'm like, we're just going to unload a couple and we'll win this thing. Nope, didn't get another one. He finished with 3. Loss. Had Ovechkin anytime goal, expecting last game in Toronto. He's going to come out firing, ready to go. Does not score. Loss. William Nylander, anytime goal. Nobody on the Maple Leafs scored. Loss. We lose half a unit on each of those. That brings us down to a 0% ROI, $0, won or lost on the season. We are straight up at 0. 0. Even on the year. with 3 losses tonight. 0 for 3 on our best bets. Goddamn. 55 likes here on the post-game show. That means smelling salts. Thank you guys for liking, for subscribing. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, Leafs Nation 401, right here on YouTube. If you choose to listen on podcasts, we appreciate that as well. For all of you guys who maybe even don't listen on podcasts, just go over to wherever you get your podcasting platforms, wherever you listen to podcasts, or whatever app you have downloaded on your phone. Turn on automatic downloads. It helps the show. It helps me out. So turn on those automatic downloads. Like the stream tonight. Subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate all of you guys for participating, but just don't stop. We got 4 games left after this one. So, let's just keep the momentum-ish going throughout the rest of the season. Here's the likes. Here's the smelling salts for the likes. There you go. Gave you guys an extra couple little whiffs there on that, just to build up on that and maybe incentivize some of you guys to keep liking if you haven't already. Let's go to some of the super chats here before we go to callers. I see one of the first ones. The first time a profile picture has changed in a long time here on the post-game show. But reminder, proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids Charity, Canada's #1 research-intensive children's hospital. #3 in North America. Max Entius Decimus says, goated thumbnail. We are here with you, Zach. Yes, for those who didn't see the thumbnail of today, it is a Maple Leafs fan with a bag over their head. I normally put pictures of players, Maple Leafs players, on the thumbnail. I normally keep it, try to put somebody relevant to what's going on or whatever. But I went over to the site where we get our photos, and it was the top image when you search Toronto Maple Leafs. So I grabbed it, made it today's thumbnail. Zach Green says, Pelly is the Jerry Jones of the NHL. Change my mind. Wow. The Jerry Jones of the NHL. I think Zach's going to call in here shortly, so I'll get him to expand on that. But Jerry Jones of the NHL, that is a pretty damning review. Zach also says a few more, all from Zach here, actually, so let me just rattle these off. Coach is an issue, but he's staying till 2027. I disagree with that. I don't think he is. Trade a goalie for a D-man and a prospect. I mean, it just depends on what the market is. I don't know that you can just get that back, but I mean, fair. Fact, the Knies trade was blocked and he was fired. I don't know that that's a fact. I think that that's speculation, but I would be interested. I would be really interested to get a camera inside the room and find out exactly what happened there. But then final super chat here comes from Zach Green. Run far away. Okay, Mike, he built the team. Yeah, look, still, I agree with Mike. I would not want Kevin Adams here in Toronto. That's a guy who's low on my list. Viper 4044 says, Jones is more fun than Pelly, LOL. I guess. Let's go to our first caller on the line here. Let's welcome to the program Zach G. Zach, what's up, buddy? Good name.
Great name, man. Sorry, I've been MIA. I have probably got PTSD from this team. So
that's all good. There's a lot of people who have been regulars here who I have seen in the post-game shows for anywhere from 3 to 5 years, basically every single night, and they have disappeared. So, I mean, I hope it's not me because that would suck. But I think that the team, the way they're playing, at least has something to do with it right now.
Yeah, for sure. I just can't. There's no point of watching it because it's we know they're not going to get the top 5 pick back, and it's kind of just everything we've been talking about this whole year. Everybody's been talking about is just come to fruition, and it's just I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean, look, we knew that they were getting older and slower and heavier, but I didn't expect it to come to this degree with the team. We knew that there was going to be changes when Keith Pelly came in and Rogers was basically taking over all of MLSE, but I don't think we expected cost cutting to the degree that there was, and to have these nightmare stories to the degree that there was. It's been a lot this year for Leafs fans, so I can understand why for you've stayed away from the team as much as you have.
Yeah, I mean, like I was just busy with work and stuff too, and like I was getting kind
Fair.
of annoyed with the effort and all that kind of stuff. But I'll clarify my super chats because I for sure like they probably were hard to 100% read, but like yeah, the Jerry Jones thing. I'm just saying like this guy, like he was way too hands on, and he has no real background in hockey, so it just didn't really make sense. And like the hiring of True Living, like how fast it occurred without an actual long process like this one hopefully will be. It just didn't make sense. Like a lot of things just didn't make sense. And then, touching on the chief thing, the only reason I said he'll be here till 2027 is because I feel like whoever comes in is going to do like the right thing and either, yeah, fire him right away, rip the band-aid off and get somebody else, or, give him a chance because he, might have the ability to coach certain types of players. And if that GM can get those players in the locker room, then maybe. But again, like, we talked about Scott Lawton before and things like that. Like, it clearly doesn't seem to matter. He has a very rigid way of thinking and coaching. And yeah, he's like a motivator, and he's not like an X's and O's guy or whatever. And he doesn't really clearly doesn't motivate the right players at the right time. Like, I don't know, him and Willie have a good relationship, I guess it seems, but I don't know. He's probably going to be gone for sure. Like I think they have to do a whole clean slate, and I honestly I don't know what a retool really looks like unless like the right hiring is made. And Kevin Adams' point as well. Sorry to, I just want to get out of this out of the way so
Yeah,
you can
it's all
answer
good.
all of this thing. The Kevin Adams thing. All I meant is like he built a strong team with like good prospects and this and that, obviously, but I don't know what exactly happened with the team to make them click the way they did, other than obviously the firing and bringing a new voice that said like basically you're all expendable is like because that's probably true, right? Like they were probably all on the table, and now they have the upper hand because the team is probably going to go on a run, and whether they win the cup or not doesn't really matter. They have way more capital now because of all these players performing a certain way, like Thompson and all the D-men and Darlene and stuff like that. That team is well built, well coached, like all that kind of stuff. And like, it's funny because it's Lindy Ruff, so it's like I don't know. Like I just think like and the goalie thing too. We have capital. The only place we have capital currently, and this is I guess would apply more if Tree Living was still in the seat, but yeah, that's the only capital Leafs kind of have to get anyone. And I'm not saying like it should be Stolarz because yeah, he's not. He's damaged goods. He's probably not going to fetch anything worthwhile. So I mean, that's kind of like, in my opinion, potential Robidoux Island at some point, or a Wade Redden kind of thing where you just bury him in the minors. But like, you cannot let go of Hildeby, and you can think about trading Wall because he is like a good goaltender. He just has poor defense in front of him. So like, you can either make the decision to keep him, keep Hildeby, put what's his face Stolarz on the IR type thing, and then you have that kid in the Russian kid in the minors. Like I mean, they have
Aktiemov.
Artiamo, so they have like that's where they're strong, and then they're also strong. Really, they are strong in the in the forward group for the most part. Like there's obviously people have to be moved, but I don't know, like who's it going to be, right? That's kind of not. I don't know, and I just think last thing is just president GM for sure. You can't just do what they just did because it clearly failed. So there's a lot of guys out there that could take that job and have more success in tree living, but from what I've read and seen Chris Pronger say since like the beginning of the season is basically like, yeah, tear down the studs and restart. And it's like he's not wrong at all because it's not like the core is like no longer Matthews and Nylander only. It's like you're building around Knies and and maybe you can keep Willie, and you can maybe see if somebody like LA or someone, if Matthews agrees to it, would trade, would do exactly what Marner should have done, or they should have done with Marner a long time before they tried to, and then get a haul for him and put him somewhere where he's happy, like LA or something like that. I mean, there's lots of players out there that you can get a nice trade package with picks or just prospects and players that can actually play today, not in 5 years. But yeah, I digress. Sorry.
No, all good. I don't know which one part or what part you want exactly to dig into, but like the thing that I would say too with the guys that you have right now and the star players and what to do with moving on from them and the coaches and the GMs and everything like that is the problem that we've experienced here in Toronto. Well, one of the problems, there's obviously been a lot, but one of the problems, and it's been an example for 9-something years, is being reactionary rather than being proactive on situations. And you know, we waited so long on Sheldon Keefe, and not to say I was calling for Sheldon Keefe's head or anything like that, but you know, the average NHL coaching lifespan is 2.4 years, and yet this is not me defending the players, by the way. Like, this is just me speaking on the coaching situation in general. It's 2.4 years. And yet, that was Kyle Dubas's guy. So through however long it was that he was here, I think 5 years for Sheldon Keefe, he couldn't go. He had to stay. You could have mixed something up. You know, like everyone wants to say the Leafs are coach killers and they've gone through so many and they're getting let off the hook. Okay, to an extent, I agree. But at the same time, Edmonton rolls through coaches, Vegas, Dallas, they roll through coaches. The only guys who have really stuck around are Colorado and Tampa, and that would be Jared Bednar and John Cooper. And outside of that, it's mostly being a coaching carousel that you see in the league, whether it's new guys coming in or if it's recycled coaches. It's always been a very quick trigger on these, and guys have a chance, it doesn't work, and they move on. That's one example of it. You know, then you look at the players here. Very early on, it probably should have been identified that one of Marner or Nylander, because I think Matthews you wanted to keep here. I think a guy like John Tavares, once you signed him, you weren't going to trade him, so it becomes Matthews and Nylander. You should have explored the opportunity to trade them early on because you still had the assets of keeping the other guys. You still had a prime John Tavares, but they waited and they waited and they waited, and then all of a sudden, all of them had no moves, and they couldn't do anything about it. A very similar situation ends up happening with what you have in Morgan Rielly and your defensive group. You know, you never went out and took a swing on these guys. You kept Morgan Rielly until he had a full no move and no trade. Like, everything has been reactionary and too late to the punch. It even happens when you get to free agency. You sign the guy after he's been the guy and hope that he can be the same guy here. It's not being very creative thinking or forward thinking that's taken place. And it's very frustrating. And whatever the next regime is, they need to be guys who are going to go and get ahead of things and try to be creative on stuff. By creative, I don't mean picking up Dennis Malgin for Mason Marchment. I mean identifying young talent and bringing those guys in and prepping them to be NHL players before they are NHL players. Or if they've had a minimal opportunity in one spot, bringing them in to come here to your organization and be a piece that you can build with going forward. You need to start finding those guys. You need to recognize what you have and not be afraid to move off of what you have, because you can recognize what's elsewhere and what might help you. Like this organization feels very like stuck in the idea of comfortability, and whatever it is,
they're stuck in the past.
Yes. Then they're very stuck in being comfortable. I don't want to trade Matthews or Marner or Nylander because what if it goes wrong? And we know that keeping these guys here, we're going to get X, Y, and Z. That's great. But there was a point in time where they could have returned you something big and something meaningful and changed this. Maybe there was times out there where you could have found another coach to come in here. Maybe Pete DeBoer had become available and you could have taken a swing and said, fuck it, we're going to go and get that guy. But no, we have Sheldon Keefe and we like Sheldon Keefe, so we're going to stick to this. It's got to be more forward thinking and prepared to and guys being prepared to take chances on things, because as it currently stands, this organization is going to be fucked.
Yeah, like I agree with like literally all your points. And like when you say like comfortability and stuff like that, and like I just think about like more recently, obviously, with like the moves they made where they dropped, like, I mean, they got rid of first picks for guys that were here for 5 minutes and a poor playoff run, and it just didn't work. They kept doing it. And I just think about even like, I think it's like a mentality that people have, or these older guys have that are running teams and stuff that maybe not Dubas, I guess, but maybe he was influenced by Shanahan. I don't know. But like, if you look back at the Leafs back, like, I'm talking like, the days of Belfort and Cujo, the guys they used to bring him back then and they actually made runs with, it was just a different time. It was a different game. And now it's a fast game. And the biggest problem the Leafs have is they're slow. And it's not just the forwards, it's mostly they don't have anybody on the back end that you can trust to break the puck out and actually do something or hold on to the puck. And that's the thing that if you looked at that, like I can think of that one play in early on the season. It was overtime, and Tavares is holding the puck, and they all went to Tavares. And gets it out and whatever. It's like gets it out front, and they score and they win the game. It's like those are the plays they need to be making. But the only guy that's doing it is the guy that's got the slowest boots on the team, but still has hockey IQ like anybody else. So it's like they got to think like, okay, what's the problem? We keep going back with these like high octane forwards, like a Marner, like a Matthews, whatever. And like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, they're the only reason they lost. There was a lot of questionable calls and things like that, and all these excuses you can sit on for all day if you want. But as a realistic Leafs fan that's watched this team since I was a kid and saw the dark days of like Brian Burke and all these things, it's like, okay, guys, let's like do something else. Like, I don't know, get a top defenseman or two or three, like draft them or trade for them or do something, because the clear problem is we have what is that back end right now? It's so questionable. Like, I don't have one person on that back end besides maybe OEL that I like, and then you're just saying earlier they're not shutting them down. It's like Berube's coaching for his job. He's not coaching for the team at this point or the organization. He's trying to show that he can still motivate these players, which he can't do clearly. And whether it's injuries or whatever, like it's, I'm sorry, like you lost the room. There was an issue with that whole, I didn't get to talk to you about this, but the whole Matthews and Gudis thing. If you think about that, why did it occur and how come, what was going on? Like why did nobody respond? There's a reason for that. It's because he's not a good leader, because they don't, I don't know if they respect him or not. I'm not really sure. The culture is bad, clearly, but that was the most like eye-opening thing I've seen in Toronto in a long time. And that to me is like going to be hard for Matthews, because he's going to either come back and be unsure if he's got anybody in the room that has his back, which he probably does, but they weren't on the ice, like Domi. But I think you have to make a hard decision, and obviously the one with more value would be William Nylander. But I think he is a player I'd rather have leading a team, like being one of the leaders, even though he's kind of immature. But him, Knies, those are the two guys that I'm like, yeah, untouchable. And obviously JT doesn't need to go anywhere because he's done nothing wrong. Like he's just this poor guy on the sidelines looking like he's, probably dejected because he's chose to come to Toronto, chose to come here to win. And clearly it's not happened, and it might not happen. And he's probably going to stick around that team, I would think, till he retires. But unless they trade him somewhere to let him try to win. But I mean, I don't know. In my opinion, it's like, yeah, like you said, they need to think creatively, think outside of the little box that they've been in. And yeah, the coaching thing, it's like, man, 2.5 years is the average. I'm sure it is, because like you can't keep doing what you're doing. And the only guys that can last are the ones that win, and the ones you mentioned are the ones that won. And they're also coaches that don't coach like anybody else has ever seen. They're not like people like, oh, we need a Craig Berube because he's a hard coach, hard nosed, like a Babcock. He's like a Babcock, is what he is. And that works for a time until you have players that don't respond to it, which is clearly the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then Keefe, it did work for a while, and they did have success to get into the playoffs, which is a big deal. And yeah, they lost to teams that went to the cup or made a run. It's not like they lost to a team that had no business being there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. And I'm sorry for taking up your time.
No, you're good. I appreciate the call and all your thoughts on it. Like the one thing too, I want to point out here with what you brought up about the Berube thing and like him kind of being somebody who could more or less, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but like yell at them and kind of hold them accountable or whatever. You did need that. Let's be clear here. The Leafs did need that, but what they needed was a guy that the players also respected as a coach, like as a hockey mind, because you have very smart hockey minds in that room. William Nylander, regardless of what you think about him or Matthews or Marner, they are very smart hockey minds. They know. Yeah. Players know. The players know whether the guy is a good coach or not. So regardless of what his voice is, like they know whether they're good coaches or not. Very clearly here, the players don't respect Craig Berube as a coach. And then at some point, the motivational factor and the yelling factor gets lost. They needed somebody who would come in, yell at them, give them shit, scare the life out of them, and then say something wise about the way that they needed to play and provide some type of belief in what he could bring to the table, X's and O's, and systematically. Because if you have that, the players will buy in a whole lot more and change things. Like it needed to happen, and they brought in the wrong guy, clearly. I think if you brought in a guy like Craig Berube into a much more structured team and gave him some better assistance, not saying Berube got hung out to dry with the assistants he had. He obviously had a hand in picking them, but if they was forced into like having a better defensive guy in there like this season, or having somebody better than Mark Savard be in there to run the power play and the offense, I think you would have been in a better spot, because then the team's already structured, and then you have better people around, and then he can motivate. But instead, you had people that they just didn't respect. You had an unstructured room already and an unstructured team already, and then you just had a guy who was yelling at them, and it all got lost. So that became a big problem here with this group. Anything else you got for me here tonight, Zach?
No, I'll just leave you with the point. Like, I don't know what happened this year. Like, because like Tree Living said all the right things and got these players to come in like Lawton and stuff, and then they just didn't play them properly. It was managed poorly. Nobody got brought up, all that kind of crap. So it's like you have to bring somebody in who's gonna like be able to present themselves with some confidence. And like the reason I say Chris Pronger is because he's already basically said his plan, what he would potentially do without saying it, 'cause he's trying not to tamper or whatever. But it's like somebody needs to come in there and be like, hey, I can do this job as a president, and then I'll have somebody come in as a GM, or have Shane Doan come up as like him do the job, try it out, whatever, or Pridham or whoever it is. But you need to like keep your hands off the product. Like you're a business mind, you're not a hockey mind. Like let me do my job, and I think that's what Keith Pelly probably wants. Maybe Tree Living was a bit too much of a, I don't know, people pleaser or something like that. Just wanted to do what he wanted. But like that the Knies rumors, like I don't know if they were true or not. I'm just saying, like, if he would have made that trade, like, yeah, the pieces that he was going to get back might have worked out, but like it was way too much of a risk with that contract being so good. So I just hope that they pick two people, not one person, and then they cut some of these guys that are like the thousands or however many employees they have that have literally no idea what they're doing, especially in the scouting department. So, like, the drafting is horrible. Everything's been bad. We need to, like, it's like maybe not retool the whole team or rebuild the team. Maybe you have to rebuild the front office, right? So, I don't know. Who am I?
No, I get it, man. That's kind of what I think. Like, I don't think that this summer should be full-blown, shut it all down, trade everybody, tear the whole thing apart. I would like to see the new GM. Like I see Philip Vespa says, tear it down to the studs and build the structure correctly this time. Tear the front office down to the studs, build that structure correctly, and start there. See if anything can change. See if this can go in a different direction. See what they think. Because if you bring in the right people that you trust, and they are intelligent hockey people, and they can get this thing in the right direction, then let them have a year to run this thing with this. They're going to have to make some moves in the summer. They're going to have to get some of this dead weight out of here. But I don't think it needs to be nuclear right now. During the season, later on, maybe. In the summer, maybe. I'm not going to disagree with anybody who wants to say those, but me right now, I want to leave it to the next coach, GM, and president of hockey ops to see what they can do in the summer and what their opinion is first. If you bring in the right structure, let's see what can happen, and then let's go from there.
Yeah, like I have no idea what tear down of the studs means for Chris Pronger or for you as a GM, Zach, or me. Like it could mean like, yeah, maybe we're just gonna tear down the management team and then we're gonna like rebuild the defense because that's clearly the weakness. Like the offense is not like the way they play is the problem. It's not the players and they should be able to score. Like Nylander's had respectable points. Like I don't know. Rebuilding to the studs or tearing down to the studs doesn't necessarily mean he's talking about getting rid of every single player. That's not logical at all. So
yeah, I agree with you. All right, Zach, thanks for the call tonight, buddy. I appreciate it. You enjoy the rest of your night. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, man, I'll probably talk to you next year.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Zach.
See you, buddy. Bye.
See ya. There you go, Zach G on the line. Just a reminder to anybody who hasn't yet, send in those super chats. Proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids Charity. We do have more coming in, but with only a few games left in the season, I want to make sure that everyone is getting those super chats in here on the post-game show because we want to raise as much money for Sick Kids as we possibly can. And this super chat comes in from a guy who's been firing off super chats all season long. He sends in a $10 super chat here tonight. This one comes in from Tom Robbins. Tom says, as much as Dubas was doubted as a great GM, we went to an old school GM and now we are worse off. We need balls from a GM like Florida and Vegas to say, sorry, you're gone. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Dubas, a lot of people want to do revisionist history and be like, well, he did really well for them while they were here and look at the regular seasons and look at the success that he's having in Pittsburgh. Okay, I understand that, and I'm not going to diminish anything that he did in the regular season. I'm not going to diminish what he's doing in Pittsburgh right now, but let's separate a couple of things. Let's start with the Pittsburgh part just to clarify this. The Pittsburgh thing, first and foremost, is he's had experience. He made mistakes. He made some bad errors. Saw them, learned from them, now gets to go somewhere else where he's got autonomy. He's going to take control of the operation. He was given some leash from the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. They don't expect him to win immediately, and he gets that. He also walks into a situation where he's already got Chris Letang, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, went out and acquired Erik Karlsson. Like, he's got some guys and had some guys already. He also was in a different position where the goal was not immediately to win. The goal was to set yourself up for the future while also remaining competitive, which is a very different goal. Like, he's recognizing, hey, I've got these high-end players. As long as I don't ruin this team, we'll be fine. And he didn't ruin the Maple Leafs. Like, he didn't ruin the team, the on-ice product. But he just went out and acquired picks and got rid of guys and made some decent deals to bring in some pieces. Going to his time in Toronto now, to be clear here, he did start a lot of the issues that they have right now. Some of the trades that were made, contracts that were signed, refusal to make some of the trades, like, not moving off of Nylander or not moving off of Marner, getting locked into no moves and no trades on some of those guys. You look at some of the deals that were made where he was so horny to move off of first, second, and third round picks to bring in players who came in, played till the end of the season into the playoffs, and then left in the summer, and you didn't get anything for them. You didn't maintain anything from it. Like, he made a lot of errors while he was here, and he started the ball rolling on the lack of youth that this team has. They don't have anybody coming up from the AHL. They don't have anybody coming up from junior hockey. And a lot of that is because poor drafting outside of the guys that you were basically gifted in Matthews, Marner, and Nylander, which he inherited when he got here. And then, he traded a lot of the picks away. So they didn't have that many opportunities every single year to go out and pick guys. Then you look at where they're at right now, where they don't have any youth. They don't have anybody coming through. They don't have picks. A lot of it was started by Kyle. Brad pushed it off the cliff. He's the one who accelerated the 18-wheeler going overboard. But it started with Kyle. Brad has fucked this thing up here, finally, but it started there. Let's go to our next caller on the line. Let's welcome to the program Max Entius Decimus. Max, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing? Oh my god.
Oh, voice changer on you there, Max.
Sorry.
Sorry. You're good. A nice profile picture change in the chat, by the way.
Oh, yeah. You got me going with that picture.
I had to do something different tonight. That was how I was feeling. That was what I saw at the top of the list when I went to the picture site that we have. So I had to throw it in there. I'm glad you guys liked it.
I haven't changed my Google profile picture in like 10 years. So congratulations. You're the first.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like you've been commenting in my chats for 5 years now, Max. 5 years, like I think, is when I started, and you and I met informally. We had never met in person. We finally have, but at that point, it was just in the chat, and I've come to know you, and I was always seeing the same profile picture. So I'm glad that I could be the reason you changed it. Well, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to talk about Berube. He's acting like an old balding man who's in denial that he's balding. You know, like he's got that comb over. Maybe he has a toupee. You know, he just can't accept that he's balding. And hearing Granato talk on the morning show saying that they need more run and gun, and like thinking about that, it's like, why doesn't Pelly just fire him already? Nick said on the morning show, like, they should just fire him already. Like, because right now Berube is trying to hold on to his job, and I respect it. Like, he is a coach and he has to fight for his career, and he's not going to roll over and die. You know, he wants to have wins and show that he can coach and whatever. You should just fire him and give it to Lalonde and just like throw the rest of the games, you know. But they're keeping him around.
Yeah, and to me, though, even Max, like, I know the way you worded it is not necessarily exactly how you meant it, but, like, you don't even have to, like, throw the rest of the games. Like, I'm not talking about going into a game and being down 2 goals and being like, well, we're going to put out Steven Lorentz and Calle Yarncrow because we're throwing this thing. But it's like, why not give Easton Cowan and Quillen and Grew the chance? Why not play the young kids? Why not play Quillen for 12, 15 minutes a night? Why not see what they've got? Why not put Villeneuve in and run him out there for 15 minutes a night and just see? Like, even now, these guys are going into the lineup. I watched Quillen tonight, and I watched him over the last little while. Is he the best player on the ice? No, not at all. I'm not trying to say he is. But, like, he works his bag off. He seems pretty reliable for the most part. There's a lot of shit that he could work on in his game. I think in his defensive zone, he could probably be better. I think he could still be stronger, and I think he could probably make decisions quicker. But play him. Give him the chance. Like, give him an opportunity. You're doing it with Easton Cowan, finally, and you're seeing that pay off. Like, who knows what that'll be next year, but right now you're seeing real-time maturity and growth. Tonight was not a great night for Easton Cowan. Fair enough. But Easton Cowan got an opportunity, and he got to still continue to go out there to play. Berube talks to him. He plays 20 minutes and 44 seconds. That's the most of all Maple Leafs forwards. The next closest was Nylander at 20 minutes and 32 seconds. Like, you're letting the guy play. Why can't you let Quillen play? Like, Berube is stuck in this mindset. Why can't he play? Why can't Villeneuve play? Why can't Hames play? I can't understand it, Max. I can't understand that.
I mean, this team has had a history of just absolutely reprehensible asset management.
Yeah.
going back to Rask, where we didn't even give him an NHL game before we traded him for Raycroft. So like this team seems to have like a phobia of like giving young players a chance. And it pisses me off so much that they won't bring up Villeneuve or some of the Marlies. And like this season's over. Like I get it. Like, you know, you still want to save face or whatever, but like you should see what these young kids can do, and they just don't want to do it. It's like pulling nails with these people that like to give Villeneuve or Danford a shift. You know, like, oh no, you got to play Yarncroke or fucking Stetcher or something, you know, like to really get those 2 points. You got to get those 2 points. And the saddest thing about it is it probably helps us in the Tank Nation, because if you brought up those kids, they probably play better than them.
Yeah.
And like we'd actually win.
Yeah, true. Like they probably have some more juice for sure. But like I just you brought up the history of like reprehensible asset management. Change it. Change the fucking history. You fired Brad Treliving. You can at least start. You have smart people in there, Shane Doan, Haley Wickenheiser, Brandon Pridham, to be able to be around and help guide and make decisions. And yet you've got you've got Craig Berube. Like, okay, let's even take Hames and those guys out. It's still Craig Berube who's going to make the decisions on the lineup and who plays and who doesn't, because it comes down to the coach. And then once the game gets in action and it's in motion, it's all up to him about how things are run. How are we not, you know, firing the guy and putting somebody in there with a mandate about you're going to play these guys and you're going to roll lines and you're going to give guys more opportunities? Like, how is that not a situation that's taking place? It's infuriating right now. Now is the time to start to change this stuff. You don't have to just drag it on through the rest of the season. You can get a head start on it.
Yeah, like, I mean, we already let go of Holmberg and Steves. And like, if you put them on this team right now, we'd be a little bit better. I really don't understand the like. Mike brought up a couple things that I want to talk about. One was comfortability. Comfortability. Yeah. Keeping Rielly. Like, MLSC keeps him because he is paid like a number one defenseman and he has a name and he's been here forever. So marketing wise, they want to keep him. But like anybody with any hockey brain would get him the hell out of here as soon as possible. And the other thing that Mike said that I really agreed with is that we can trade Stolarz. Like, did you watch the Oilers game with Jari against what was it, Utah or whatever? That was brutal. Oh my God, they would pay through the nose for Stolarz.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. There's Western Conference teams who would have been interested in your goaltending. I do agree with the chat, and I do agree with people, though, that Stolar's value probably just continues to drop because, you know, the injuries piling up, and this one here tonight I think hurts again. Like, he's going to be another year older next year. He's going to be entering the first year of that contract. He's coming off of this injury, whatever it is, seeing him get injured again, and a non-contact injury at that. Like, it probably drops, but asset management. You had an opportunity at this trade deadline to bring things back for a player like that. You refused. Like, we didn't even hear his name out there at this deadline. We heard other guys. We know OEL, McMahon, Lawton, Waugh potentially at the end there. Okay, yeah, they could be involved. Well, you ended up only trading 3 of the 4 guys anyways. And then a guy like Stolarz, he was never even involved. And I can't understand. It's not me trying to get rid of Anthony Stolarz because I don't like the guy. It's me trying to get rid of Anthony Stolarz because I'm trying to bring assets back. That's what just made no sense.
Let me interrupt. It's not because you're trying to get rid of him because you don't like him. You're trying to get rid of him because you like him. You know what I mean? Like, because you understand that he is a good player. And they did miss that opportunity. If they at the deadline, imagine, you know, they did a trade with Edmonton and we brought back Jari, and got like a first, a second, and a prospect for Stolarz. You know what I mean? Like that's very high. Don't grill me in the chat. But I mean, what I'm talking about is that like they have no goalie right now at all. And now that Stolarz is hurt, you're right. His market value is going down. They missed the opportunity. And KPG, you remember him, like he constantly talks about how MLSE is so slow to react to things and they don't have the right business attitude to make clutch decisions.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's kind of what I was saying with Zach is like they've been really slow to the ball on a lot of things. Whether it was deciding we've got to trade guys, if it was recognizing talent that was out there, if it was decisions on coaches or GMs or whatever, it's all been slow. Everything is slow. Free agents, you're always signing the guy after he's the guy, never before he's the guy. And that's what you need to have. You need to have somebody who's going to be proactive. You need to have a proactive organizational structure here now. It can't be reactionary anymore.
Yeah, like we really have to just start being realistic. I think most of the fan base is realistic. I mean, there's always the crazy people who talk shit and whatever. But I mean, like the people in this chat are pretty realistic. You're realistic, Nick, Rosie, realistic. A lot of people they have on the show are realistic, like Renato. All these people who come on and they say realistic things. And it's like, at what point do we have to demand that our own team in the management is realistic? Like, they don't seem to understand or care what we think whatsoever, and they just see us as a bunch of numbers. That's what it feels like, at least. You know what I mean? Like, they don't tell us at all about the Matthews injury. They don't tell us about anything. They just kind of waddle around and do whatever they want, and they're thinking more about their image and their profits and their ticket sales and that kind of stuff, which is ironic because Pelly said we're not here to sell jerseys, but we know that all was a joke.
Yeah, I mean, coming here and saying we're not here to sell jerseys and then auctioning off a autographed Mitch Marner Vegas jersey in your lower concourse in his return game is the epitome of a guy who his word means fucking nothing. It was just the complete opposite of everything that we were pitched and told and led to believe. That was a complete and utter atrocity of a situation. And then you find out all the shit that's been going on, which, I'm sure a lot of people knew, but like someone like I had no idea that they were charging to wave the flag and charging $1,000 to have dinner in the dressing room and all this kind of stuff. Like, okay, some of those things are cool and nice and whatever, but when you come in here and you cut jobs and cut fat and you say we're going to streamline this, is really just a fancy way of saying we're cutting costs because we're trying to make a lot more money. And then you put on all these events and stuff. Like, it just makes everybody seem like a dollar amount to these guys. It's not about winning hockey games and being a properly run hockey organization and trying to win Stanley Cups. It's about making as much money as possible. And I understand that there's a business side to all of this. Like, trust me, I completely get it. That's part of the game, is making as much money as possible. But when you do shit like that, you really alienate the fans because you put together a terrible product after 9 consecutive seasons of going to the postseason, and you think you're building towards something. And then you come out on the other end and you charge out the asshole to fucking, it's one price to get in the arena and it's an extra price to see what's happening on the ice. And then you've also got all these other little fancy, knickknacks and gadgets that you're selling in there that are just far and away beyond anything of outside of your normal run-of-the-mill shit. It's very frustrating as a Leafs fan at this point in time. Like, people pointed out to me, it's like Harold Ballard shit again.
Yeah.
It does kind of feel like that. I was not around for Harold Ballard, obviously, but I heard enough. It does feel like that's kind of the direction that these guys are going.
Yeah, and for what you said there, look at the Montreal Canadiens. I'm pretty sure they make a lot of money. You know what I mean? And you look at the
Yeah, oh,
Bell
yeah.
Center. You look at the Bell Center. You watch a game at home at the Bell Center. That shit is rowdy as fuck. The one thing that I'm totally jealous of the Montreal Canadiens is the atmosphere in the Bell Center. I would love to be there. Like I don't even want them to win, but I would love to be there. Instead of this like morgue that is Scotiabank, where a bunch of suits like sit there for half the game, and the rest of the time they're eating sushi and having business deals in the fucking room in the back. Like,
Okay,
it's
I got
fucking
it.
disgusting.
I got an idea, and I'm curious what everyone in the chat thinks, and I'm curious what you think, Max, but I got an idea. This isn't a criticism of anybody that's there. This is just me. I thought about this, and it's not a unique idea in terms of the world of sports and that this has never been done before, but I get so jealous watching European hockey games and soccer games. And I have a couple of buddies who have gone to some of the TFC games this year and stuff. And all they talk about is the experience in the stadium, in the arena, and what it's like to go to some of those. So I have this idea, and I don't know how well it would work, but I think that in Scotiabank Arena, in a lower bowl, not in the 500s, in a lower bowl, because then you can really start it. Like, if you want to talk about the core of the team being rotten and, oh, it starts at the top, yada, 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 this is where it has to start. It has to start in the lower bowl for this to take place. I think that the Maple Leafs need to implement a fan-only section. You auction off. What I mean by auction off, you sell tickets that are like a raffle to get into them. It's for Leafs fans only. How you determine that, I think, would probably have to be based on your geolocation and your ability to buy these. But it's a section in the lower bowl that is like $50 a ticket. It doesn't have to be the whole section. Or the whole lower bowl or a big section or anything like that, but it's got to be a section. Put them behind the away goaltender's net. Have them sit there for 2 of the 3 periods where they're behind the away goaltender and they can wreak havoc. Let real fans into the game. People who are going to get loud and obnoxious and buy a billion beers and get hammered and scream and taunt and abuse the other team when they come here. They get loud, they wear blue, you set off blue smoke in the arena, you have flags or whatever the hell you need to have in that section and rally towels and all that shit, but you load them up into one section and those tickets can't be resold for higher than the value of the face value of the ticket. And I know that that's an option because if you go on an app like Ticketmaster for certain concerts and stuff, they have set limits on things where you can't resell a ticket above a certain price. You know, TFC has the fan section in the one end of the stadium, and they are nuts. They have chants, they're jumping up and down, they've got the red smoke, they're waving shit, they're banging drums, they are loud, they are nuts, and they absolutely go crazy on the away team. There probably needs to be some type of rules and confines on this in terms of what you can and can't do. I completely understand that, but 200 tickets, if that's what it is, you fill up one section, first come, first serve on who gets the tickets, but like you release them. If you get them, you get them. They're $50 a ticket and you load up a section with that. That is the idea that I have because all the rest of the tickets, sure, whatever, sell them for $1 billion and load the corporations in there, whatever. But I kind of feel like if you can fill in a fan section, it immediately changes the vibe of Scotiabank Arena because at bare minimum, you're getting people in the lower bowl who are going to get louder and rowdier. And then I think from there, it filters at least up. I don't know how far it filters out around the lower bowl. Hopefully over time, more people get involved in it. But I think at least going upwards, as the tickets get cheaper, you start to get more people who get more and more involved in everything and want to get louder. I don't know how functional this would be, but I look at European sports. I look at the hockey they have there. I look at the soccer. I get really jealous of the atmosphere, and I think that's one way to just start to get people into that area to get loud and get rowdy. You need to change the vibe in that arena. You really do.
Yeah, last thing I'll leave you with is my personal experience, because this year I saw the Leafs play Buffalo in Buffalo. We lost. But the atmosphere there was electric. There's like the Go Leafs Go and the Let's Go Buffalo chants back and forth, and there's a whole bunch of like blue-collared people just all chanting back and forth, people banging on the glass, like it was an atmosphere. And then I saw, just before Christmas, I saw the Leafs play San Jose Sharks in Scotiabank. And the one thing that really grinded my gears, it goes along with what you're saying, and it's so indicative of how out of touch MLSE is with like how to run a sports team. They have the guy, the mascot, or the guy that walks around with the drum going like bang, 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 like let's go Leafs or whatever, like bang, bang, bang. They do the thing. But they only have the guy with the drum doing it in the upper bowl section. That's where all the real fans are already sitting. They don't need encouragement. What you should do is put them down in the lower bowl, bang it right in the faces of these rich assholes who don't make any noise at all, and guilt trip them into maybe fucking cheering for once in their fucking life. Do it to them, because the upper bowl doesn't need encouragement to cheer. They will already cheer. As soon as you hit that bang, they will cheer. The bottom section, when they're banging the drum up in the upper section, the bottom section is quiet. They don't do shit. They're too busy about their own fucking life. They don't give a shit about the team or the game or anything. It's absolutely disgraceful what goes on at Scotiabank.
I don't disagree with anything you said there, Max. I appreciate the call. I hope to hear from you before the season ends. I hope you call back in here at least for game 82. So hope to hear from you then. I know I'll see you in the chat and throughout the next little while, but thanks for the call tonight, Max. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, always good to talk to you, Zach. Have a great night. Love your show.
Thank you, Max. Appreciate it. Great to talk to you as well. There you go. Max Entius Decimus on the line here. Let's go to our next caller that we have waiting. Let's welcome in Jeremy. What's up, Jeremy?
Zach,
Jeremy, I got you.
How's she go? Is my fucking heater on in the background? Can you hear that background noise?
Nope, I can't hear anything. I think you're good.
All right, perfect. Hey, why do you look so upset tonight? Hey?
I'm tired,
me
man.
To make you smile? You want me to make you smile? You want dong soup?
What do you got?
You want hot walk?
What do you got? What do you got?
I don't know. You look all upset where this was like, wasn't it like clockwork? Fucking shut out the whole booth, whatnot. Hey, right on. Goalie injured, had to take to that. But, to where at the end of the day is Anthony will probably come out tomorrow and be like, it was just like, felt like it locked up like a little Charlie horse. We haven't played for 3 days, so not enough water. Milo, so I think I'm fine. I should be all right. Probably play out the last one here at home when coming up. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? I thought it was clockwork tonight. There was absolutely no fucks. Hey, maybe it's Berube going to be like an advisor to the new president. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe everybody hated traveling to her. Hey, way too much excuses, not enough answers. Not enough answers, way too many excuses. The excuse train. Does everybody know that, like, Dubas didn't hire, just a little quick tidbit, didn't hire those fucking cute kids, right? Cute kids as, like, how they play in fucking blind pass. You know what I mean? Fucking mimes. Ooh, ooh, ooh. They all don't talk to each other, right? To where he got handed a team with no movement. He said, hey, I'm going to sign all of them. He did. Didn't fucking know that, hey, Lou Lamoriello leaves, they get to sign John Tavares. Oh, my God. Right? Hey, now he's handled with a fucking flat cap for fucking 4.5 years to where then he finally leaves. The thing is it's been excuses from, it was Brian, it was Nonis's to Burks to fucking Lulu Amarillo. He was right there. Kyle Dubas was the GM for the Marlies, bringing in Keefe, second year, wins a fucking Calder Cup, bringing in Hyman, third round. Yada Connor Brown, sixth fucking round pick, comes in, boom, 20 goals, no big deal. Little Gingy, to all those players leave. Well, fuck yeah. Remember all the PTOs? Did we hear about PTOs anymore? No. Why? Know why? Because everybody's bank account's getting up. I think what's going to be happening shortly here in the next 2 years, I'm not saying next year because there's 3 teams that are, one's really in debt. Like Petrangelo, figure it out. Are you staying there or not? You got to be healthy by now. It's not like you're fucking Tanev's age. And, Dubas, Pittsburgh? Imagine being like that. Imagine that. Oh, wow, fucking, sorry, I went off track. But Dubas, he got handed Letang. Let's have a fucking cardiac arrest every fucking 2 years. Love him, Canadian. Fucking all the respect in the world. Malkin, Crosby, and fucking goalies. Oh, Carlson, right, the other old guy. He inherited all these 30-year-olds and then brought in a bunch of fucking what do they call them? Blue-collared, hard fucking workers who get it to the team. Here we are with this team right here. Hey, where's the clockwork? Why you look so upset? You got to smile a little bit more. Your hair's, you got a hanger now to where you just looked really upset. Really, fuck. 4 games to go. Fuck, this is, you know what I mean? Come on, smile. Clockwork. Fucking, hey, Anthony Stolarz hurt. Fucking boom. We could get to see Ekman-Larsson come in. You know what I mean? For Berube, he's either coaching to be, as if I'm going to help this team fucking get any. I need my Yarncroak out there. Fuck yeah, Yarncroak, fucking A. Yeah, bench that kid over there. Yeah, let him fly in the plane. No big deal. Right. Don't ruin his confidence yet because fucking he's doing everything. You know what I mean? The team, it's all fucked up. At the end of the day, don't look so upset. Let's smile. The background looks good. A little
Thank
fucking, you got a little, what is it? What do we call that? An OEL fucking tape job on the end? If it was about 2 more reps down to the mark, that's like a fucking Morgan Rielly, 7.5. That we are not trading assets to get rid of them because everybody's going to have even more money except for Edmonton, Vegas, and there's another team. I can't remember who they are. That's all fucking in the minus. So they'll have like 8 million to sign like fucking 7 players next year and trade for another goalie. Yeah, Stan Bowman. Do you think you're going to have a job by the fucking draft? I don't know. Probably not. Wait, actually, really, why? Because if I do another trade for a goalie, that's going to be like 6 goalies in 2.5 years before Ken Holland fucked off and said, hey, you know what? Apparently we have the most cap in the world because all the trades come to, fuck. Let's go to LA. Oh, trade him to LA. Fuck, where do Kopitar. He leaves and fucking let's trade everybody there. Oh, LA will take him. Oh, LA will take him. Like, what the fuck? And LA has all this money. Where's all their money? I know anybody's got money except for Vegas, Edmonton, and Jari. Great call. No, Tristan Jarry. Oh my God. I fucking looked at Kyle Dubas. I was like, you motherfucker. Like, you fucking swindled that one. You got rid of that little fucking dude. Got Skinner, who's a fucking unrestricted free agent. So you could, no, now Dubas has money to play with some actual dogs around that's breeding the other people around. Because as if you could walk into a dressing room, no matter who the fuck the coach is, and be like, hey, I'm gonna probably do a fucking Ray Charles pass there just before the blue line to you, Cross. Right there, Cross. Okay, can I call you kid? Right there, back pass. No. You do it right because there's Malcolm right there, slap you in the mouth. Crosby, slap you in the mouth, even though like he's got gray hair. Kids, and you know what I mean. And then you got fucking Carlson. You know what I mean? Malcolm, Carlson, Letang. Like there's everybody there, from a centerman, a winger, to a fucking defenseman, and then whatever. Carlson come around for the ride, like everybody else. because those guys all have a place. To now with the Leafs, it's like, what the fuck are we talking about? We actually have money, but I get it. I get it with the upset face to where it's like, well, we needed some effort. Why? Let's fucking at least look at game 82 this year, because there's two more next year, and be like, well, you know what? We really did better than everybody else. You want to know why? Because we had 13 games where we tried. We tried. We gave. At the end of the day, is all those other games we did try, fucking nobody else fucking didn't try that many. Nobody else tried that many games like we did. We fucking hung it up fucking in warm-up. It was like, fucking hang now. Ooh, shit. No, that's an ingrown fucking finger. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, I'm out. Boom. Oh, the puck looked at me weird. The fan pissed me off. Now, going to your one point, and I'll let you speak, because I've waited to that fucking fan thing you're talking about. The only way that works, Zach, because like getting the fans up for 2 out of the 3 periods, because sitting down to where the goalie moves once, or you want to be back there, right? I think it's either do the bottom row all the way around, up and around, behind the penalty box, in behind the benches, so right there, or like right to the glass, to where, hey, beyond that, maybe you get a $8 more. You drop the price a bit, and you can see the glass for free, and then add the 8 to be behind the people right there, so it's just a little less of a $2 token afterwards. That, or you do a ring just where it goes flush all the way around, because it has to be flushed, where you have a whole row right in the middle of those fucking platinums all the way around. It flushes up right at the penalty box, because the glass is a little higher, and then it doesn't flush up like the benches. I think it goes down 2 rows, then benches, then down to the glass. But if you're not doing it right around the glass, to where you got a fucking drunk motherfucker right up at every glass all game long, to where it's like, sorry, kid, I paid the extra $8 to be by my spot right now, because I got the fan deal right now, $58 fucking dollars. So I want my titties during warm up right there. Sorry, little girl, you're gonna have to step back or get on my shoulders. We'll have a good time. I've only been through 2, right? To where it's either that or a ring right around, all fleshed up, to where you could sit there and do what we do up in the top right in there in the 308s, and it's like, hey, fucking what a goal! Yeah, we're losing 6-1 right now, but fucking right, fuck that. But you got a ring now, so it's all rings. Whoever your buddy is, you better get your spots first. It's a ring to attaches, just like the little flag we put over and all that shit. We have a ring, so during the game, we piss off in front of us, because we only have a few rows. If we really do it right, say 10 rows from the box to the benches, to where you're pissing off the suits. You got a guy getting down there in the fucking screen where fucking Butch Turcotte here, Darren Turcotte's fucking father, he looks just like Butch Turcotte right behind that player's bench with the fucking goatee. To where you got a guy going down with their nipples there, the oversized fucking early all drunked up, piss off, all the sushi everywhere, to where now you're getting everybody up above you, because heat rises, sound rises, well, depending on how many doors you open. At the end of the day, that is a perfect idea, to where it's all the way around that fucking ring. All those seats, it could be whatever price, but it has to attach to where your buddy is high-fiving, to where you crate it up during 42 games a season, because it's going to be 84. So 42 home games, and everybody's like high-fiving, whoa, and everybody knows each other now, because they're dying to get their seat, but it's like, you know what? I want to go see Zach over there. He's 19 seats over. He's in the corner, but I said I got a buddy for him, as in a Budweiser or a drink or a fucking gin and tonic or a little fucking Pickwick, which have you, sorry, no fucking call it, and go over there for the second period. There, it's like, oh, motherfucker, I see you down there, and then everything starts where you have the wave up all the way around to where Toronto creates this fucking goddamn stadium ring, and all it takes is one even ring of seats of everybody, all wacko dackos, the real motherfuckers, not the ones that we're talking. Maxim Densmith, great call. Sorry, didn't say your last name right. I don't know how you would do those things. Just fucking want you to have your name like a fucking MD or something. S on you. For a great call, but come on, realistic Leafs fans and whatnot, come on. this chat. If we got fucking 400 in here, we got wow, yeah. Anyways, we need all of us in the chat. Or sorry, not all of us. I've never been in the chat. I just sit from the outside and observe. You know what I mean? To Keith Belly, to he's like, hey, you're gonna trade Knies for that? Are you get the fuck out of here? Jesus, we gotta get rid of him. He speaks too well, but not enough answers. Ask him a question, no answers. He's just a middle guy. Get the fuck out of here. You couldn't even last this long. Sorry, you got to go. Your buddy will be following up with you later. At the end of the day, he could be fucking, hey, let's do a funny. Hey, Berube's going to be a fucking advisor to the president for fucking player operation. There, let's go. Right there. Let's get nuts. Everything else is getting crazy. We'll fire him after the third period in the last game of the season. When they blow it out and we miss the fucking fourth pick. Being in there and we drop to 7th where it's like, oh, right, great, love you. Hey, next day, well, we have our whole fucking board firm here. Berube here at the press conference. What the hell is he doing up there? Everybody gets fired. You never see him again until they get a new team and then they start talking shit. What the fuck is he doing here? Hey, so I'd like to announce I'll be the advisor to the hockey player options for the next year. Blah, blah, blah. Right where it's like, oh my God. Oh yeah, Steve Sullivan will be the head coach. Fucking Derek Laud, he'll be the defensive coach. Fucking what's his name there? Van Ryn, he'll be gone. Fucking doing skill coach with Patrick O'Sullivan. No big deal. At the end of the day, that ring has to be all the way around. That's the only way, because you'll piss off everybody. Well, nobody above you, but everybody down. But then they'll see you right in the fucking limelight. You know what I'm saying?
All right. I know what you're saying. Jeremy, with that, I think I'm going to let you go. That was a fired up 14 minutes straight.
Dude, you look so upset. And it was like, oh, my God, I'm bored tonight. Like, holy fuck, I'm not going to call in. You look so upset and downer. Not upset, but just like how I would look watching that hockey team from behind the bench.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem is I'm watching that hockey team. That's what it's making me feel. So what you just did for me brought the spirits up. So thank you for that, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
Like the first time. Like the very first time. I was going to come in like, fuck, we should get Tommy Boy. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, fucking Jack Allen. Right? We're going to go, oh, you want some hot work? You want hot work soup? You know what I mean? Or we're going to go in the Jerky Boys. You ever used to watch that there? Hey, fucking Frank Rizzo. R-I-Z-Z-O. Fucking who we talking to? Police Station 401? Yeah, let's fuck around. Anyways.
All right, Jeremy. Thank you for the call tonight, buddy. Appreciate it. You better
get your ass going here, too. Like, what are you talking about here with this no work, that? You work on holidays and all this in your little thing? Fucking, I got a background better than you. I can show you a couple little detailed ideas. And my thing, to where I need to come on here and get just producer bet there. Little heads
I
up
produce
before
this.
Before I go, I tried out I have a mic and I also have a headset with a mic to where my voice, I thought it was fucking annoying before. Dude, I thought I sounded better. You lied to me when I said, hey, do I sound any more clear? Yeah, a little bit more clear. Fuck, I sound just as dumb on my iPhone as I did on that piece of shit fucking Android. I tried out my mic today, and it was like, wow, I sound like my voice when I do imitations, up and down, the tones, yada, yada, to where it's like, I don't sound like that fucking guy. I sound like I'm in a closet. Yeah, I'm staying away from my fucking dog right now. You know what I mean? Fucking, yeah. Yeah. Anyways.
All right, well, you try out that mic. Game 82. Game 82, I need you to bring that mic out. We got to hear the impersonations and all that kind of stuff. So you bring that out next Wednesday.
No, you better be. We're working tomorrow, bro. Today.
Well, yeah, I will be here tomorrow, actually, too.
There's a game tomorrow. You're working tomorrow. You said to Merrick, oh, we're working, Zach. Oh, fucking you are bigwig. Oh, yeah, we're working. Zach says we're working. Well, if you can work with fucking Merrick, we can work tomorrow.
Okay, I'm working. All right, Jeremy. Thanks for the call tonight, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Smile. Talk to you later. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. There's Jeremy. Make sure to hit that like button still. We're 23 likes away from doing more smelling salts here on the postgame show. So keep getting those likes in. Let's go to our next caller on the line here. I feel like I'm going to butcher the name. I apologize, but let's welcome in Kian.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah.
Kian. There we go. Okay, I was worried. You've called him before, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I got it wrong the last time, so I was trying to make sure I remembered. But Kian, what's up tonight?
Oh, just trying to stay positive and find a way forward in this team. Now, I have a couple of things that I was curious about and wanted to talk about, but the first thing, just based on your fan section idea, one, I think it's great.
Okay.
But the core problem of it is like the examples you brought up of like the previous caller brought up Montreal, you brought up European sports, you brought up TFC. All of those different circumstances have purpose-built arenas and stadiums for that sport. And the problem with Scotiabank Arena, that it was purpose-built for basketball and then was repurposed for hockey. Like it was originally built for the Raptors, and then the Leafs decided, we're just going to hop in here too. So the sight lines and the entire building is not designed to be a hockey rink. And when you compare that to all those other places, they get louder because they're purpose built to be a hockey rink. So I think that's one of the biggest problems is why we don't get that loud is just how the entire rink is designed. Because if you compare like Raptors and the Leafs, like the Raptors get loud in the same exact building.
Yeah.
And like the platinum tickets are comparably priced. So it's like, what's the difference? It's purely sight lines and the ability to properly spread that kind of noise. So, I wonder whether we just need a new rink to properly have a purpose-built hockey rink. Or
okay, my only thing is I remember the McDavid World Juniors that they played in Toronto, and I remember the World Cup of Hockey. Both of those to me seem like they got pretty loud. Maybe I'm just misremembering it, but I felt like it can get loud. Even the playoffs can get loud in there. It's just not a sustained environment. That's my issue, is that I feel like the clientele that goes in there for these events is different than what you get on a night-to-night basis for the Maple Leafs. That's why I'm trying to change who's in there. That's what I'm trying to get as like the first piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the World Cup final in 2016. Like, it definitely does get loud. Like, but I think when you're trying to create the environment for consistency, like, I would argue that as loud as the ACC or Scotiabank has ever gotten, it's never as loud as the Bell Center.
I think that's probably fair. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I think that's probably fair.
And I hate to say that. It drives me nuts. I've been to games at the Bell Center, and I hate that it's louder, but it is. And I think that's just the acoustics of the arena and how it's built. So I think there's a twofold part of that.
But you outside of that, you like the idea, though? You're on board with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I went to a Michigan Wolverines game back in the day, back when Andrew Cogliano was there. And they had a fan section, and it was the best. They're like chanting shit at the refs, and just rowdy as all shit the whole game. It was awesome. Like I would love that at a professional game. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, that's a thing, man. I just think that the European environment is so fun. You can I have a buddy. Just being honest, I have a buddy who plays pro in Sweden, and they played in. I'm gonna out who this guy is. He played in the relegation in Sweden this year. They were just trying. It was a best of 7 series to not get bumped down to the league below. Like he's in the top league in Sweden. He played in a relegation, and that arena was fucking nuts in there. And I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the Swedish hockey where these guys are trying to stay in League One, and it is bonkers. And I'm like, man, how can we not find a way to get this environment to be better here? And I think a big piece of it is just the clientele that comes in. I think it's very, very, very corporate. In the playoffs, it does get better, but still not the best. I think that we're just pricing out Leafs fans. That's the problem. We're pricing out the real fans. Like that's what happened on the Marner night too. The people who would go in there and boo and go crazy and stuff, they can't afford tickets to get into that game because it's a hyped up game. So the ticket prices go through the roof. We have to find a way to block off a section or a part of the arena that we can get to get real fans in.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Okay, the secondary part I wanted to touch on was like this whole idea of retool and rebuild, and like I just don't know what we're preserving. Like I understand it's like, yeah, it's tough to get star players like Matthews and Nylander, but for me, this feels so eerily similar to like the 2005, 2006 season, just coming out of the lockout.
Okay.
Right? Like you were talking about a team that consistently made the playoffs, had some good runs for a long time, and in fact, they had better runs. They went to the conference finals a couple of times, and so like
Sure.
you could actually argue why they actually had better reason to believe that team more than we do in this team, and they waited too long to decide to rebuild after they missed the playoffs. So they missed the playoffs in 05, 06. They're like, nope, we're just going to try again. Nope, we're going to try again. Okay, now let's mortgage our future and trade away Alex Steen and Kolyakov. We'll release Stechniak and try again. And all of a sudden, we're in hell for a decade, right? And that's my fear is that if we just keep trying to prop up this team that has not shown us any winning ways, any consistency, anything to hang our hat on, then it's like, why are we preserving this when we can move those guys to recoup those assets and properly move things forward? Like people always like, oh yeah, we could be the Washington Capitals. But it's like they at least won a series like every single year. They kept running into the Penguins in the second round, but every single year they pretty much won a round. We can't say that about this team. They won 2 rounds in their entire history.
Mm-hmm. So obviously I have voiced an opinion that is kind of opposing to you, and I'm going to kind of reiterate some of that, but I want to be clear here. I don't fully disagree with you. Like, I don't. But for me, I'm just willing to hang on for one more year if you're going to give this a new try with a different president and GM and coach, because you did bring up the points that I've said, and it's that Matthews and Nylander, they're hard players to come by, and you probably spend a lot of time trying to get back to getting guys like that on this team. So you don't want to just give up on them. Well, I shouldn't say that. You don't want to give them up and just accept like, yeah, it's never going to work. We're going to move on and start again, and just leave it without giving it a real good try one more time, because these guys are still 28, 29 years old. Like, I think you can get another go out of them and try it, and it still be worthwhile, where by the time you get through to the trade deadline this year or into the summer next year, they still retain the same value or very, 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 very similar value of what they would right now. So that's kind of it for me. And like, I look at, the conversations that we've had and the conversation that I had with Mike in Buffalo, and, it's everybody is involved in the problem here. The players are part of the problem. The coach is part of the problem. The GM is part of the problem. Well, you're about to change a lot of it, where you're going to bring in a new coach, more likely than not. You're going to bring in a new GM and a new president. You're going to have a different voice in the room. You're going to have a different systematic approach, but you're also going to change players, because I think if a new GM and everything's coming in here, they're not going to run it back the same, so they're going to try it differently. So I'm just more so like, I agree and disagree with you in that I don't have a problem with moving on from these guys, but I'd be willing to give it one more year where Matthews and Nylander stay here, and you try to see if you can change the fortunes of this team with a new group around them. That's really all it is for me, because like, are you going to trade Knies and Easton Cowan? To me, the answer to that is no, and I think that's you said there, no. So you're going to keep them. The 2 guys that you would trade would be Matthews and Nylander, and if you trade both of those guys, I think you're just immediately committing to being bad for a couple of years and starting the process again, which is fine. But I just would like to see what these guys do in a new environment with a better built team and a better coach around them. And they might get to the playoffs and prove us, right, that they can't do it. But I want to know for sure one more time, because I don't think doing it for one more year is the end of the world. It's like Matthews' contract doesn't end at the end of next season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that his contract situation is actually what makes him more valuable to trade this summer than next
For
summer.
sure. For sure. I get that.
They get 2 full years out of him versus 1. Where Nylander, I think it doesn't actually matter. You could actually hold on to Nylander another year, and he's got a bunch of time left, so that his value actually arguably will stay the same, because his production hasn't gone anywhere either. Like, if Matthews has another year like he was having this year, you could argue that his value is actually going to continue to fall down. from where it might be right now. Right now, you
Yeah.
might think he might get back to where he used to be and being a 60-goal scorer, and you might be able to call up LA and be like, give me Byfield, Clark first at a prospect, and we'll call it a day. Like, I'm not mad at that kind of trade. We're getting a first line defenseman, we're getting a potential first line center, good prospect, and we get a first round pick that we need desperately. So it's like, I don't know why we wouldn't explore options like that just for the hope of potentially making the playoffs next year. The thing is, like, I don't disagree that you could make moves and all these different changes that are inevitably going to happen, that you will probably end up making the playoffs next year or can. But I don't know whether that's worth doing that just to be there and make money for MLSE and then lose in the first or second round again, and we're back to the same place we were 2 years ago.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I really can't put up an argument against you, honestly. I completely understand where you're coming from. It's just my personal preference to try it one more time, or at least have a management group come in this summer and see what it is that they can do and what options are out there. Because the other thing too that might happen is they might come in, have a plan to change things and not be able to execute it because other teams aren't willing to make those trades or those guys that they want aren't available and it doesn't work. So then by the end of the summer, you may be in a position where you're going to have to trade the guys anyways. I genuinely, like, I cannot put up an argument against you. Everything you've brought up is completely fair. It's just my personal preference to try one more year. That's it.
Yeah, no, totally fair. I mean, I can see the appeal, right? Like, I mean, he's literally the best goal scorer in our franchise history. And like, you don't want to give up on that. I get it. But it's like,
the one thing I'll say, Kian, that makes me think it. Sorry to cut you off. Sorry. The one thing with the Matthews thing, because you just brought up like the goal scoring, and I'm like, the one thing that really makes me think about it is just the drop off that he experienced from 1 year with 69 goals under Sheldon Keefe to the last 2 seasons under Craig Berube, and what the way we see him play, and then also understanding like the team stats and how much time they spend in their defensive zone and all that kind of stuff. It just makes me think that somebody else coming in here and having a different approach and playing more offensively and playing more loose might be able to unlock some of that stuff in Matthews. Injuries are obviously a problem, and I'm not disregarding that. I get that completely. But even still, I watch the guy and I think there's no way you can't score 40, 45, even touch 50 again at some point here. I believe that guy's in there. And maybe I'm just an idiot and an eternal optimist over it. But it's like, I believe that guy's in there. And I want to try one more time before moving on. Because it's also in the back of my mind, like Nylander, I know he's going to go somewhere else. He's going to do the same thing. He's going to put up the same points. It is what it is. Like, if you trade the guy, I get it. He's just going to go somewhere else and do the same thing. I know that. The Matthews one is the one that, like, if he goes somewhere else and he scores 50 next year because he's in a better situation under a better coach and he's playing how he should be playing, that's going to be the one that makes me sick forever. You know, I just want to try it one more time. Again, being overly optimistic and hanging on for dear life to the idea of it, but I just feel like that drop-off is way too much for just saying, well, the player's fallen off. Like, there's got to be some other part of this. There has to be.
I mean, I compare it to, like, you know, we held on to Matt Sundin too long. My favorite player of all time was the team leading goal scorer at the time, leading all-time points, and we refused to move him. We moved Thomas Caberlet 5 years too late, so we didn't retain the same value we should have. You know, same thing with Brian McCabe, but we waited too long to move him when his value was high, and we decided to trade the young players to try and sustain something that wasn't working. So it's like, are we not just repeating history 20 years later?
That's a fair point. It's a very, very fair point.
Like, the contrast of, like, if you look at 2006 Olympics, Maple Leafs captain wins gold medal. They go on.
Oh, I know. I know.
The contrasts are so crazy.
I read the whole thing, how it happened, how he played, what happened after. Oh, I read it all. I know. It's the same.
It's just astounding, you know? And it's like, we had Ed Belfour back there.
It's sickening.
we don't have that now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Joseph Hall, but like it's not enough there.
Yep. I know. What else you got, Kian?
I mean, those are kind of the big points I wanted to bring up. I know it's past 1 a.m, and I don't want to keep you too much later, anyways. Yeah, no, I've been been a passenger here in the chats the last few days. I can't honestly good on you for doing this. I ran a podcast for a few years, and it just became too straining to continue to talk about this team and for it break your heart over and over again. So honestly, like, good on you.
Fair.
For just trucking through this shit day after day, especially in a season like this where they're just absolute fucking garbage. So, yeah, good on you. I look forward to the day that Berube is fired. And yeah, if I definitely think next season we can get back to the playoffs, but I just wonder whether it sets us back for the year. So
yeah, it's an entirely fair question to ask. But I appreciate you calling in and being part of the chat. As always, thank you for this call here tonight, Kian, and I hope that we hear from you as well before the season ends.
Yes, sir. You have a good one.
Thank you. You as well. There you go. Kian on the line. I think we got one more caller here left to go to. There's someone who's popping in, popping out. If they want to call in, they're welcome to. But let's go to the next caller here. On the line, let's welcome in Jordan. What's up, Jordan?
Hey, Zach. How are you?
No points for the Maple Leafs tonight, so that is a positive. Wish the Rangers had won because I think it would have helped, but no points for the Leafs is a good sign.
Yeah, I looked at the standings. I think our only shot to get to the bottom 5 is we need Seattle to somehow win 2 games of their last 5, and we have to lose every game. So It's not looking too good, but all we can do is keep losing.
All you can do is hope, buddy.
Right. Now, with the last caller talking about what the Leafs will do, the thing that people don't realize, Rogers obviously owns the Leafs. They also own the TV contract up in Canada. So they're going to try to be good next year because they want their Leafs to be good for the TV ratings, which that's kind of a conflict in itself. But what I'm curious about, and from indications, it seems like Sonny from Florida is the front runner, which if they can get him in quickly, fine. And then you got to make a decision on the coach. But like we were talking about the other day, DeBoer's now with the Islanders. Obviously we can't make any hires till the season's over, but they got to do this quickly because, what's going to happen with Cassidy or whoever the heck we're going to get, they got to get this done quickly. And I'm just worried that they're not going to. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I keep saying, it's got to be done quickly, but it's got to be done right. That's the other part of this. You don't want to just go and get a guy because you're panicking and saying, hey, we got to get someone in here. And yet you also want to get a start on this because you want to be prepared, where it's not like in the next 2 months you're going to start making moves or anything. That's one thing that needs to be understood is that the playoffs are going to take place. They're going to be a 2-month process, and then we're going to get to the draft. But the most important part of it, in all honesty, at least for me, is getting somebody in here to get a plan in place and start preparing for that draft, because that's the first big moment. That's the first big thing that's going to happen. And you don't want someone coming in 3 weeks ahead of the draft and then they've got to hire the GM and the coach and make sure they figure out all the AGMs and the scouting staff and all that kind of stuff after the fact. You want it ready from day one so that you can be prepared and start having your plan in place by at least a month out and start building from there. You don't want it having to get started a month out.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then also with the last caller, he was talking about Matthews' contract with 2 years. I would argue that if a team is going to trade for Matthews, they're obviously going to want to see if they can give him an extension before making the trade. So I don't think it really matters if there's a year or 2 left. But yeah, I know they're going to run it back for next year. I'm either hoping we do really, really well or we do really, really bad. Because what worries me is if we're kind of somewhere in the middle, and then they're just like, okay, we'll run it back for another season. Then we have 2 more mediocre seasons. So, but obviously until we know who the GM is and what they do with the coach, it's kind of like right now we just got to hope that we keep losing and somehow Seattle wins a couple games and we keep that top 5 pick. So,
yeah, that's kind of the real final hope for the rest of this season is let's get that pick. Like that's it, right, Jordan? Like that's the one thing that I look at as a Leafs fan and think, if you can get this pick, it can drastically change what happens in this summer immediately. And even if you need to trade Matthews and you need to trade Nylander, it jumpstarts the next part of it. Because if they're here and they're around it and they can be a part of this organization and growing, like, you're in a good place.
Right. And then the last thing, and then I'll let you go. I think we got the 3 goalie situation. I think Stolarz is the one we got to move. He just is so injury prone. So I think he's the one that I would probably trade, and then we just go with Wall and Hillaby. So
I would agree with you. It's just going to be like, what do you get for return? 4 years, 4-year deal kicking in, starting after this season. That contract hasn't even begun yet. Like, what do you get in return for an injury-prone guy who's aging? I feel like if there was ever a time to trade him, it would have been at the deadline. It's not to say you can't move off of him in the summer, but it felt like the time was there.
yeah, that's true. But there are a couple teams that are desperate for goalies, so maybe you can catch them. But we'll see. I mean, so all right, Zach. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, Jordan. Thanks for the call tonight. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you next game. Thanks.
See ya. There you go. Jordan on the line. We do have one more caller here. He's been jumping in and out all night, but finally we got to him. Let's welcome in Warren. What's up, Warren?
Hey, Zach. How are you? Do you hear me all right?
Yeah, I got you there, Warren. I'm good. How about you?
Pretty good. I started listening to your show a while ago, maybe 2 years, on the infamous Jay Rosehill rant, but I've never actually called in. So that sucked me in.
What a way to get involved in the channel. The amount of people who have said, yeah, you were the guy who sat in the corner quietly while Rosie just went nuts, right? And I'm like, yep, that was me. Or they found the channel because of that rant. It's like, it's nice to know, but it's also sad to know that that was a moment in time that happened, because that was a really frustrating period. But I'm glad that you found the channel, and I'm glad that you've stuck with us. So thank you, Warren. And thank you for calling tonight.
Yeah, no worries. My main thing I was calling about, a few things. I wouldn't mind chiming in about the whole fan thing that everyone was talking about.
Okay.
But the thing that's bothering me, like, is I don't really know who's like calling the shots here. Like, you have an empty vacancy at GM, and you have a team that's dressing a lineup, in theory, trying their hardest to win games right now. Like, who's going to want to come in here with a team that can't even tank properly? Like, you have no evaluation of player. They have no footage to look at from guys who haven't even gotten a chance to play. And we're looking at a team that's like, a team like Florida, let's say, when you have Barkov and Kachuk out the whole year, like, maybe in theory you would want to see how they look together. You know what I mean? Like, see what the team looks like for a year. I guess Florida's a bad example because they won 2 cups in a row. But this is a team, like, we know what we've got now. Like, there's no secrets that are being uncovered in these last 4 games, and yet we're sitting here playing our best lineup, and I just don't know how anyone at the top of the chain is not coming down and saying, look, we need to get a new GM here, and we need to do everything in our power to get a top 5 pick. I checked tonight, the tickets are $150 just to get in the building. They're making their money just fine. So I don't understand why. I don't understand, like, how the process isn't that obvious that you're playing young guys. Like, there's zero benefit to winning games right now. Obviously, I don't want the team to, like, coach to lose and, like, play Mike Pizzetta 25 minutes. I do think that'd be fun, but within reason, you got to coach with integrity and put, like, the young guys in a position to not embarrass themselves. But at the same time, if I'm a high-end GM on the market and I'm looking at this, I'm just saying this is a circus, because they can't even tank properly. And I don't know how they're going to get the person in.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, that's the thing too. Like, Keith Pelly said, we're not going to tank. And I think the traditional sense of tanking is, playing the worst lineup that you could play or whatever, like trading away guys and putting together a bad lineup. It's a little bit different in this instance, where I don't think people in this market, I mean, to an extent we are, but I don't think people in this market are necessarily saying, like, dress the worst lineup every night, put Travis Boyd in the lineup and Marley's only, and, like, these veteran guys to just lose and be bad, or play Phil Myers 25 minutes a night. I think people in this market are saying, you're you're just not even doing this correctly, to your point, where like you may win games, but you may lose them as well if you just play young guys. Like, let's see what we have. I don't need to be putting like the counter. The other side of it is Craig Berube playing Calle Jarnkrok for 12, 15 minutes a night for no goddamn reason. We know he's leaving at the end of the year. We know he's gone. So what's the point? Like, are you doing it just to like say thank you for your service and treat him kindly on his way out? I can understand that to an extent, but at the same time, the best thing for the organization is to find out what you have in the young guys and play them. It's playing those guys, and it's giving them a chance, and let them make mistakes, and let them play for 15 minutes a night. Let them play for 14 minutes a night and find out. Like, that's the part of this to me that is just mind-boggling of what is taking place. It's not even necessarily, and like I know you said this, and I get what you're saying, but like it's not even like the tank of looking at it being like they can't tank properly. For sure, that's part of it, but these guys can't even, like develop assets properly here right now. They can't even find out what they have and what like a normal team would do where they would play young guys down the stretch. The Florida Panthers, I made the joke, but like I'm half serious. Like a guy on Florida gets a hangnail and he's out for the season. Here in Toronto, we're asking guys to play through injury. OEL, get in there every night that you can. Carlo, battle back. Joshua, play if you can. Stoli, Wall, play. Like, why? Just get to the kids. Give them a chance. Let's find out what we have. I've seen enough of Jarnkrok and Myers. Like, Lorentz is fine, but, like, I don't need to see him right now. It's just, I'd rather see kids play.
Yeah, me too. And it's also, if the regular roster was actually, the game in Anaheim, like, they gave the most effort I'd seen probably since the game they beat Colorado months before. And, if they played like that every night, I'd say, you know what, fine. Maybe they'll build something. It's unrealistic. We're going to get the pick. And I'd rather have the pick. But they're lifeless out there. Like, I wouldn't go watch them right now for, like, $50. It's not even about the money. It's the principle. Like, the experience is terrible. The fans are, like, for once, justifiably disinterested in the product on the ice. I mean, that's not been the case the last 10 years, right? It's been a train wreck, which is not the other thing I wanted to call about. But I don't know. I just don't understand what they're doing. It almost feels like Berube is doing it out of spite for someone. Like, it just, I don't know. I haven't heard one person call any show or any analyst say, no, they got to just play their guys like this. Like, there isn't a single person outside of the Leaf organization that's suggesting to not do what we're saying for them to do. So I don't understand personally.
That's a good point. Like, you don't hear anybody. It's not even just here on the post game here. It's anybody. You don't hear anybody saying, no, we need to see more of Phil Myers. No one is saying that. Right? Like, I get you, man. I get you, Warren. I get it completely.
Yeah. The other thing your fan idea was pretty interesting. Caller after mentioned how like the Upper Bowl is great, and I'm like, it's not. I go to the Upper Bowl a lot. It's terrible. Like I go to Bills games, I go to see other NHL games in other cities, and like this is by far the worst arena to watch a hockey game in. And it, you end up missing half the game lining up in the intermission to spend $25 on a beer, which is like you can't even get people drunk there. Like maybe if they charge $5 for beer, third period they'd make a little noise, but like my friends who go, they're like, no, we'll just have one or two here and we'll get a drink after. It's like you can't even afford to get drunk at these games, and maybe then could be a little bit of noise. But I was getting like weird looks during a playoff game. I remember it was an elimination game, Leafs Tampa. You remember that game 5, like when we came out flat and before we won in Tampa when Tavares scored. Like, I remember I was making noise and cheering. I was with two buddies. I actually won tickets. And I invited them, so we didn't pay. And we're in the lower bowl going nuts. And everyone's looking at us like we're bothering them. And I was thinking, like, what is the point of me being here? Like, I should have just sold these for resale. And I think it's almost contagious. Like, I think a lot of people I know, like, can afford to go. And we all say the same thing. It's like, there's no experience. And I feel like the fans have been made to feel like outcasts in the arena. And I don't really think there's a quick fix to that.
Yeah.
when I go, like I feel like I'm weird if I'm making noise. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm disrupting your caviar, your meeting down there. Like,
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a good point. I've had a very similar experience. Like, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to go and get the loudest ever myself. Like, I'm not going to be the one heckling players or anything like that. That's just not who I am. But at the same time, I go to the games, and when it's time to cheer and get loud and everything, I do. Like, I went to the Jays playoffs last year. I go to as many Jays games as possible. It's a very fun environment to be in. Everybody gets loud, gets on their feet, gets up and gets involved. Like, it's a ton of fun to be there, and I got to experience that and was a part of it. But when you go to a Leafs game, it feels like you're in the wrong for doing that. It feels like you're an outcast by being somebody who cheers at a sporting event. It's a weird feeling. I get it 100%. Look, I don't know what the solution is. I don't. I mean, it's just a silly idea that I had. And obviously, I'm not coming up with something, new here to the world of sports. As I brought up, it's something they do in soccer, and it's something that they do in European hockey, and other arenas are loud. But like, this arena needs something to change. And to me, that's just like a very simple is a wrong way to put it, but it is kind of in a way a simple way to fix things in there. Like, let's put a section that it's max $50. If you're going to sell your ticket, the most you can sell it for is $50. The only people who can buy it are people whose geolocation is set to Toronto, and otherwise you could transfer your ticket if you want to, but it has to go through. Fuck it. Actually, no, you can't even transfer your ticket. You could only sell it back on Ticketmaster or something. Keep it simple. Like, that's the only way I would do it. And you can sell it for $50 because I guarantee you, that's the other thing is like, I guarantee you, if you put your ticket back up for sale at 50, it's gone. It's going to be sold. So look, I don't know. It's a thing I've been thinking about for a bit, and finally tonight I was like, all right, like people were pissed about what the environment's like, and I know I was watching the game tonight and it gets half empty in there and stuff. It's got to change. We got to change the environment. We got to change the mindset of everything, and that to me is an easy one to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was at a preseason game. Me and my friend were just like, let's just spend $100 and sit in the front row. We found it near the game, and I had to go to the bathroom between periods. And, I cut through like the restaurant down there where all the suits go in the intermission. Yeah. And when I went, I came back and they're like, no, you can't come in here. You got to walk all the way around. And I was like, what do you mean I can't come in here? I'm sitting in the front row. And like, I was a bit drunk. I was just kind of arguing with them just because the whole culture pissed me off. Like, these guys are in there eating steak. Like, why don't you just go to the Keg or go somewhere where like you're not wasting a seat? It's just such a weird, like, elitist feeling down there.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's interesting. Like, you look at Vegas lines when a team's home and on the road, like the biggest factor, like Austin Matthews being in and out of a lineup is less of a factor than if the Leafs are at home. So home ice advantage is the most important thing in sports. And the Leafs their greed just gets in their own way. Like, you look at every single game 7 they've had, and everyone's felt it from the puck drop. Like 5 minutes into a game 7, you're like, oh no, it's going to happen. We're going to lose. Like, that's the feeling that's in the rink. The team struggled to play with a reactive crowd behind them. And I think they actually would have done a lot better if they just had a bunch of drunk idiots in the crowd, and it would have fired them up more. And I'm not blaming the fans for the Leafs choking in all of those games. I don't like when people do that, but the ownership is so short-sighted, and I don't know what they could do to change that or guarantee that the real fans get in the rink. But they should realize how big of a factor it is to winning, just as much as having the best roster. Like, you need proper people in the crowd because it is quantifiable. It's not just like narrative or boomer talk. Like, it is the number one factor in sports in determining which team is going to be favored. And the Leafs do not have a home ice advantage. So they're playing, so I'd argue their games in Buffalo are more of a home game. Their games in Ottawa, and then they come back home, and it's almost like half the people there, it's almost like they're just waiting for them to fail so they can boo them. Like, it's just such a weird energy in that rink. And it wasn't like that when I was a kid.
No,
Maybe
I know.
I was a kid and I didn't know.
Well, no, my dad has kind of said the same thing about when he would go as a kid and stuff, and explaining that experience. And like, We just don't have it anymore. And you're 100% right about the home ice advantage and the fact that it kind of gets nullified here in Toronto. Like, the only real difference for home ice advantage in Toronto is the fact that you get to sleep in your own bed and you get last change. Other than that, it's just another hockey game. It doesn't change things that much. It's even more. That's the other part of it. It's even more than just the fans getting behind your team and providing them energy, which, again, to your point, I'm not going to blame the fans for the losses either, but it's also getting on the other team. You look at the basketball games that take place and the playoff runs that they went on, and when they won the NBA championship, like, it's not just cheering for the Raptors. It's egregiously rooting against the opposing team, celebrating misses, booing them when they score, or booing players when they flop or whatever. Like, you give it to them and make them feel it, make it uncomfortable to play in your barn. We just don't have that.
Yeah, I remember starting a fuck Embiid chant at a Raptor game. In my head, I started it. It was a playoff game. But I just, he started flopping around, and I just yelled, fuck Embiid, and then someone else yelled it, and then a few people started doing it. I'm sure that's revisionist history, but point being,
I believe
right.
you.
Vince Carter did, when he'd come back, it was loud. When I went to the Marner game this year, and I was actually pleasantly surprised at how loud the boos were the first time Dorofiev actually touched the puck, but everyone thought he was 16. But it was loud, and then it kind of tapered off. The game sucked, but it was the loudest the crowd's been all year, and it's just anger. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think they need to find a way, and that they should honestly have a job for that. Just hire someone to make the product better. And also, this is such a niche complaint, but when you're in last place, almost you can complain about anything. But the actual DJ in there is playing da 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 chart. You know what I mean? Playing the piano, and it's you think you're gonna get a bunch of suits down there to oh wait, I was finishing my meeting here, but charge is on. I got to get into the game now. Puts everyone to sleep in that ring too. And I don't know. I'm just mad at everyone right now. So I'm blaming the MC of the Leafs and the organists. It's just not a hockey environment in there. I was just at a Predators game at Nashville, actually, and I was like, this is 100 times better.
Yeah. Yeah, no, dude, I completely understand. We got to go to the Preds game, the Leafs Preds game last year. We did the Nation vacation here on Leafs Nation. We all went down to the Preds game. We went with a bunch of people from the chat and who are fans of the show and fans of the Leafs and everything. And being in that barn is an awesome environment. They've got live music. They've got chants for everything. Joseph Wall lets in a goal, and it's chanting at him, it's all your fault, it's all your fault.
Yeah.
Wall sucks. They get on you for that kind of stuff, and then they get on the away team. It's fun environments to be in, and we just don't have any of that. The charge thing is fucking hilarious. Oh fuck, hold on, pause the meeting.
Yeah,
I got a charge.
Yeah. And I'm Jewish, I can say this. They're playing Hava Nagila with 3 minutes left in a 1-goal game. I'm like, what are you guys doing? It's my Passover scene right now. What is going on? I thought I'm at the Leaf game. But anyway, I'm getting fired up about nonsense. But in Nashville, they're actually, I was at the Knights game and I started booing Marner by myself, but it didn't catch on.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's a horrible atmosphere. The team is bad, but even when they're good, it is a problem. And I think if they fixed it somehow, it would give the Leafs 10% better chance of winning a home game and a playoff game, and that's a lot. But to me, their home ice advantage is nothing. And if you bet against the Leafs in Toronto every year for the last 10 years in the playoffs, you probably made a lot of money. So just factoring in how the odds move, the team plays a lot worse at home.
Well, that's what I did every year for the last 5 years. I think I did an emotional hedge where I would bet against the Leafs. And, in the last 5 years, they won 2 playoff series. So I lost twice, but then I won in the second round both times. So I hate to admit it, but I get it, man. You bet against them, you're more likely to win money than you are to lose.
Call that an emotional hedge. If this team had if this was a team we'd all be in 20 years, I remember the good old days of Cali, Yarncroke, and all that stuff. Like, we wouldn't be hedging against them. Like, you're just making smart bets. Like, you're so in tune with the team. We just don't know what's happen. The Vegas algorithm doesn't factor in a lot. But no, it's very easy to bet against this team, and it's not a hedge. It's just a smart bet for the most part.
Yeah. Anything else you got for me here tonight, Warren?
No, I think that's it. I hadn't called in, but I might start doing it a little bit more.
Yeah, you should. This is enjoyable. I'm glad you called in here tonight, and I hope we hear from you again. But yeah, thank you, and I'm glad that you saw that Rosie rant.
Yeah,
and stuck with
I showed
it.
With my uncle who played like Quebec Major Junior. I showed my dad. They're kind of old school, and they're like, I like these guys. And then sometimes I'll be at my parents' place, and my dad will like have you guys on now. So
that's
I think
awesome.
They like the old
Thank
days.
you.
Yeah, you watch. I don't know if you're affiliated with Sportsnet. I doubt it, but like you watch them, and like I remember once a Leaf player screwed up in the playoffs. I don't remember what it was, and I think it was even Bieksa. He was like, I don't want to say his name, but I don't want to embarrass him. I was like, what do you mean you don't want to embarrass him? Like he's paid to be embarrassed if he's not doing his job.
Yeah.
But you guys just kind of just say what everyone's thinking, and that's a lot. Sort of like the Don Cherry replacement almost. Like just let it go off on a rant where we don't want it sugar-coated, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that we can do that for people, and I'm glad we have a platform to do it as well. Just for some context on that Rosie thing, too, I thought I was mad when I started that show. If people watch that back, I came in hot. I was pissed about what happened, and Rosie joined the show like a couple minutes in because he was coming on as a guest. So he jumps in, and I can see him because the way I get it is he's backstage, so I can see him before I bring him in. And I could see him pissed. I could see it in his face. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I was pissed. And I'm like, what is this guy going to say? And I bring Rosie in. And the anger I thought I was experiencing was like 10x coming out of Rosie. And then it just kept firing me up more. And then I think the more it fired me up, the more it fired Rosie up. And the two of us just went back and forth. And I'm like, by the end of it, I was like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah, it was group therapy. I think that was after the game when Marner, Nylander, and Matthews were all yelling at each other on the bench, or mostly Nylander and Marner threw his gloves. I think it was.
Maybe. It was the Boston series game 4. So I don't remember if it was it was that one. So all I remember was that it was 2-1 for Boston in the series. Game 4 was in Toronto, an opportunity to tie the series, and then you would have headed back to Boston for Game 5, at least even. Right. And we all knew, like, going down 3-1, you were probably cooked. Now, mind you, they did go to 7 that series, but I remember, like, being like, okay, we've got a chance here tonight to even this thing up. And they didn't just lose. Like, they put forth one of the most embarrassing efforts I've seen until that is of Game 5 and Game 7 of the Florida series last year. But until then, it was one of the most embarrassing performances I had ever seen in a playoff game in my life. And I was just losing my shit.
Yeah. I mean, after Game 5 and 6 that year, I actually went to Boston for Game 7. It was probably the coolest hockey experience I ever had. But yeah, being in that rink, I was just like, wow. Like, I felt like if I were a Leaf player, I'd actually feel intimidated by the crowd there. Like, it made such a big difference.
Well, they probably were.
They were for sure. It was a great hockey game, unfortunately, that ended the way it did. And I had to probably, maybe if the Leafs won, I would have gotten stabbed with my jersey. So maybe it was for the best. I don't know. But
yeah, fair. All right, Warren. Well, thank you for the call here tonight, man. I appreciate it, and I hope we hear from you again.
Yeah, I'll call in again sometime. Take care.
All right, thank you, Warren. Appreciate it. There you go, Warren. That'll do it for the callers here tonight on the post game. Let's get to our final couple of segments before we can wrap this up. I think at this point we're just going to abandon the grade, and it's not because I don't want to do it. That's just I don't even know if the grades make sense anymore. If anybody in the chat disagrees, we can get back on them. But I think for tonight we'll just abandon it. So with that, we'll go to our play of the game. Okay, play of the game for me. What do I even say in this one? They lost 4-0. Play the game. I don't even know that the final buzzer, like legitimately, this sucked. That was a shit hockey game to watch. Is there anything else I could have even picked as a play of the game in this tonight? I don't know. The final buzzer. Let's get to the final segment. Let's go to our draft lottery simulator. Also, I see here in the chat, you guys, with the poll there, people saying they would go to a draft lottery watch party. So, okay, that's interesting to know. But draft lottery simulator. We get closer tonight. We move up one spot. We're tied at 500 on the season with the Florida Panthers, but they do have 37 wins, so they do pass the Maple Leafs, who only have 32. They do have 14 overtime losses, but the Florida Panthers have 4 overtime losses, so the Maple Leafs currently sit 6th. The pick would go to the Boston Bruins if the Maple Leafs stay at 6. As pointed out by numerous callers here at this point, you basically need Seattle to win a couple and the Maple Leafs to lose all of them to get into that top 5 spot for this season. But with that, let's sim the lottery. The pick goes to the Bruins. The Rangers move up 3, pick first overall. Vancouver, Chicago, and Calgary all drop. Seattle stays at 5. The Maple Leafs stay at 6. That'll do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching tonight. Thanks to everybody who called in. Thanks to Mike and Buffalo for stopping by the program here. I will be back tomorrow night following the game against the Islanders to break down everything that happens against Matthew Schaefer and those guys. Until tomorrow, I guess, we'll keep it simple here on the sign-off. This is Game 78 of the Maple Leafs season, losing 4-0 to the Washington Capitals. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys tomorrow. Keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos, make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel.